Let's check it out.
No worries. Does look like we are having some units being built. Yes, we've got players sending rascals down into the middle. Oh, we really do wish there was a way that we could kick people. Well, we could absolutely make those ramps impassable. I have been taking a look at the information to try and make a map specifically for King of the Hills, but there is a lot to the process. If anyone does have the ability to do that, then please do let me know if you'd be willing to help us make a map. Our dream is to make something very similar to this, but instead of these ramps around the edge, basically just a dip that is filled with lava, and then dropping down, which then drops down at the 10 minutes. Just a heads up to anyone scouting, even if you have the rover set to not to fire at will, that is not okay. Do not enter the crater at all.
Just to let you know, the YouTube is live now. A few technical issues there with the change of a key, but we are good to go on the YouTube.
There we go. We are. I'm just pulling that one up so that I can see the chat. Apologies if you hear something for just a moment. We do have Imex sending units into the crater as well. There we go, those units deleted by the ever so helpful moderators that are helping us out tonight. We really do appreciate the support of the dev team and of the community managers who are doing their best to make Bar the best game it possibly can be. And the fact that they do step in and help us with these is something that I still find it unbelievable.
I very much need it as well. With this many people, it's almost impossible. It'd just be a game of that hitting that pause button on the keyboard. I think the ink would wear off the button.
Good thing I have double shot PBT keycaps, which means that they are not printed on. The plastic is molded the entire way through, so no losing my pause key to this game.
Regeki 3 mexes up before 4 minutes 30.
What is this? Like, what actually is this?
Quickly look at it's hard to read the stat sheet with this many players, but Metal produced 4,500. He's actually ahead of half of the Kings.
That's just...
Or about neck and neck with 2/3 of them.
It's just unbelievable. The things you can do, one of the things, I said this in the last game, if you are planning on playing Peasants, download this replay, look how Outlaw and Regeki did this, see if you can emulate it yourselves, and then come in and crush the Kings, wait for Twig and I to be in the middle, and then do this in all 4 corners and make us pay.
Looking forward to that.
Does look like we're getting we've only had a couple of small incursions into the middle of the map. It does look like we're also not getting we're not getting any defenses built on the ramp. There are a couple that are slightly incurring onto it, but because you need to prevent things from walking up those very slight edges, for example, units can sort of walk up around to this point. I'm not super fussed if the defenses are just that fraction down the ramp, because otherwise you'd need to build them all the way up that side. A little bit of best judgment and best... just people trying to do their best there. Big difference when somebody steps all the way down the ramp and tries to build at the bottom.
Let's have a look at these Kings for a moment.
Yes.
Cream player, obviously 1 chevron, new to the game, just putting down some advanced solos now, so been bottoming out on metal quite a while. There are 2 mexes that they haven't taken yet on the left-hand side, and the commander's about to box himself in to the peasants' ramp.
Oh dear.
So that's going to be an interesting lane to watch up against a couple players with 4 chevrons.
I mean, if the comm does manage to blow up that first army, then I'm going to call it worth. But yes, definitely need to scale very, very hard as a king in those first few minutes of the game. If you are going into, if you're not getting that T2, if you're not getting those T2 mexes up well and truly before that 10-minute mark. If you're not going to get a fusion, you are definitely going to struggle. We do definitely encourage a lot of aggression, but you have to have the eco to back it up, and going so early into units is going to cost you and make this a very, very struggling point in the game.
So, what's your go-to for a king role in this?
So
Where do you aim to have your base and army at the 10-minute mark?
I always try to get all 7 of my mexes within the first 3 minutes of the game. I try to get myself around about 25 to 50 wind, depending on what is going on in the early game. When it comes to the wind levels, they do vary from 2 to 20, and that does massively change just how much eco you can get down in those first critical few minutes. But by the 10-minute marks, if I expect myself to have minimum 1 fusion, preferably 2, a T2 lab, so I start one on bots and go to vehicles, and I want at least 20 jags. One of my areas needs to be defended with build turrets, the other one is just fine not to be, because that's where I'm going to absolutely ram my units down the peasant's throat. My objective is to kill at least 2 peasants by the 11-minute mark. If I don't do that in a game this big, there is very, very little chance of being able to win as the king's position, because there is just so much out here, so much control, so much micro. It will be a struggle. And what about yourself,
When you're going
Twig?
into probably my favorite, going Armada. I'm definitely more of a Cortex player in Beyond All Reason, but I do play Armada more in these King of the Hill games. And this unit here, the pink spiders that you see coming out down to the south of the map, are the reason for that. Being able to send them in, followed by some webbers that can reclaim any wreckages quickly. You do get that 45% bonus with those reclaims, and for those wondering, it's one of the rules for the first 10 minutes. Kings aren't allowed to use that to their advantage by reclaiming buildings just to get that extra 45% medal.
Build
But
orders.
yeah, anyway.
Build orders being the exception, it is impossible not to reclaim your T1 lab if you're going for a double fusion, that sort of thing.
Nothing wrong with that, but I like to do 5 recluse to 1 Weber, and send them
just
off
got
at the 10-minute mark.
On the left side, walking their way up into a base. They've locked themselves out as you expected, and now they can't get back in. Oh dear, I feel very sorry for this player. As you can see in the top right, 1 Chev OS 17 means that they do not have much experience in big team battles, and that their OS has not changed. Their 1 Chev means that they are very, very new time-wise to the game. So going to be a bit of a struggle right here, and it does mean that Fabe has to face the consequence of that. There we go, that comm is gone.
Lost comm. That is the punishment, people. If you do breach the rules, a moderator might just suck away that unit.
Yes, thankfully they have taken mercy and given him a new one back inside.
That's a little bit cute.
I do appreciate that. When you're that low and that early into the game, it is very easy to make a mistake, because I did look at what he was trying to do. He did have it on a command to walk back into the base. It just got stuck outside of the base.
10-minute mark point, which is coming up in 3 seconds.
Yes.
I do think it is easier definitely to attack on the left, right, up and down positions. Into the corners, you've got about double the players against you. So the red players, the orange player, the brown player, they are up against a few more players. The pink, the yellow, the cream, the pink, other pink, all have a more, I guess, susceptible opponent. And you can see when you're sending those recluses up that hill towards the purple player, yo. Not many units or defenses there. We got a welder, which is not going to stop 5 recluses. Peasman sending some jags up. Definitely one of the best units in King of the Hill, but met by a lot of defenses. I do want to watch these recluses. They're going to be a bit more interesting. Looking at Wanira's player view. Obviously can't see much there apart from this one welder. They probably think there's more than one welder coming over the hill, but that is not the case. Or just
Yes.
2 now.
Like that, just got a player building artillery above Trev Dog, which is not the preferred, and we do have these spiders that have come up and done a good bit of damage. The welders are pushing them back a little bit, but they have gotten up here. They have taken out some of the wind. They are going to take out that T2, and there is enough to take out those welders. This player is going to be in big trouble because they have zeroed out on metal, so they're not going to be able to get the extra welders out that they need.
This is where the Weber would be really handy. The T2 lab goes down, just kill that welder, and you got nothing against you. I think we'll see it go down now, maybe. No, we are, yeah, there we go. So there's nothing up there. We could just be reclaiming that metal, which will put a few thousand metal back in the bank for Wanira. Having said that, 9,000 metal in the bank. Metal is not an issue right now, going into an APHIS, but just build power being the issue.
Yes.
All Kings holding, no peasants fallen yet, apart from that one on the south side. Those those recluse still going through to the back of the map. I wouldn't mind seeing exactly what he's doing, going up onto that secondary hill. There are no defenses there. That player probably thought, oh, we've got a player in front of me, I'm safe, and that's not the case. We need to get some LLTs down. Going into the first unit being an auger is not the best choice. Need a little bit more awareness there, and this T2 lab will go down quickly unless this Sheldon can take away these recluses. Are we trying to reclaim them? We are.
Yes.
Probably the better target would be the build power here. We do get the T2 lab at least, so that's quite nice.
But that is very reclaimable or resurrectable, so this player might be in a bit of trouble, but they are not out yet.
Okay, good to see that the Cream player has a bunch of TU2 units now able to defend their base. I do like the use of the mines here on the ramp. So, like I said earlier, the left-hand side, right-hand side of the map, probably the most susceptible areas. When you do hear the mines detected, it does play mind games on you. You don't attack as hard as you would, just knowing you could throw away your army, unless you've got quite a force behind you that you can afford to throw away that army. I do like to use ticks, rovers, rascals, and the like to clear out the minefields. You can always use a mine layer yourself to clear them out. In case you didn't know, they can detect the mines in their position and get rid of them.
Quite cheap too.
Put them on a fight command and they will take out all the mines in your path.
Yes.
A Sniper and Banisher doing work there on the static defense on Tank Tom. Sniper's the name of the game for Tank Tom as well, putting out quite a few of those. King's really struggling with build power.
Oh dear, that's going to be... we've got a spider push on the right-hand side, goes straight into an invisible comm. Half the spiders go down with only a handful of shots going off. Great defense out of Animal. But spiders do still do a lot of damage, and even with those couple there, it is very possible that they could end up skirmishing and taking out that king, but Trev Dog backing out of this one. Does look like it's turning into a bit of a shelling game right above that, with a couple of tremors starting to shut down those ramps. But it does look like we are coming online for this super eco corner with the double APHIS triple fusion, and now we're getting snipers, welders, and ticks making their way down the ramp. And this is something which is very key, and if you want to learn how to get a lot better at the game, there are some res bots right behind this army getting ready to reclaim any metal that is taken. Great tip right there, and not just for King of the Hill, for all game modes. That is a very, very strong thing to do. Snipers do stop a lot of those wrecks from happening, but any of the metal that you can take is important.
Cheeseman going to have their work cut out for them. Only just put their T2 lab back online. It was off for a while. Currently not scaling that eco with so much metal in the bank. I wouldn't mind seeing an APHIS drop down a little bit further away from the build towers and some more construction turrets being erected.
Yes. Looking in this bottom right corner, we do have a Razorback that has made its way down into the King's level, is starting to fight its way through Wanira. Wanira pushing it back with some hounds at the moment, and it is currently fighting into the Beamers and into the Dragon's Claw, but it is quite a tanky unit for this part of the game. Definitely going to be quite a struggle for the Kings if there's already T3 getting it down at that ramp. Looking in the top side,
This
the
is
sniper push is slowly making its way in. Great use of ticks to draw fire, great use of those welders to protect the sniper. Just trying to find quickly on the list, we do have Rigeki's APM sitting at a nice 31, not insane as of yet, but definitely quite up there for controlling all of these units.
Here's the reload time for these snipers. You can see the bar slowly creeping up there. We do have 6 on the front line here.
And between them, they have 31 kills, so very cost effective. And one of those kills is now a comm. That's going to reduce the ability of the Kings to take on those T3 threats, which are usually taken on by D-guns. Yes, spam
we have
and
3 loves
jags.
of kicks coming out, and that's going to push that army right back. In the meantime, Rigeki doing the right thing, going into another APHIS, expanding that eco. Is that another 2 APHIS, I think, actually? And we're going to see some more snipers come out. I wouldn't be surprised if we see T3 after that 4th APHIS comes out. There's definitely enough to afford T3. Might even see some Vanguards. They do work. Vanguards are allowed in this game, of course.
Yes, there is much more space between where the peasants are and where the Kings are, so the use of those units is perfectly allowed.
Right side of the map, we do
God.
have a early catapult shooting up onto the hill. It has done a lot of damage to this base up here. Not taking out everything yet. I don't think they have visibility, just checking the player view. Well, we do see a fusion there, so I am surprised we're not targeting that. You can see all the smoke coming out of them as well. So, yeah. Have we got an attack command just up onto the hill? They're more worried about doing work. We do have Kargis though. These Kargis should come straight up and take these out.
Ooh, that'd be very nice getting the Kargis up there.
As Rigeki's pushing down, we've got another line of welders and snipers coming out of our Cyan player.
A lot more snipers this time too. 5 to 17. The kills are up at 119, though quite a lot of that would be spam at this point, because that is what's coming in to deal with it. One of the things you have to try and do when you fight this is prevent them from microing those units and individually targeting all of your bigger ones by having them moving backwards, not standing still. Does look like offense is now happening to the Webb himself. On the left-hand side is struggling to deal with the offense from the left.
On the hill now.
Yes.
The commander might go down.
Oof.
And our eco going down on the right-hand side. Almost.
But they are being boxed in by comms, which is and they're very close together, so D-guns will most certainly be able to hit them. Question is, can they kill that comm by the time it turns invisible again? The answer, I believe, is going to be no. It should be able to. Yeah, there it goes. Turns invisible before the Kargi can take it out. But massive spam and welders coming up that ramp, starting to take out Outlaw Elite as they push on up. The Razorback has done a lot of damage, but there is a lot coming up here. The Kings have started to come online, and they are starting to push out. But there is a lot to be defended. Tank Tom trying to do his best to help defend as much of this left side as possible. Fighting spam at the moment with snipers, not the most efficient use of snipers. Needs to get some welders in front of them. Their slow fire rate is going to become a problem. But we do need players to continue to assist the Webb himself. His lanes are very, very weak at the moment, but thankfully the Kings have banded together and stopped Rigeki's push. The snipers are still somewhat alive. There are 9 of them left. The welders are pushing in, and we've got spam swapped over to the grunts because the Junos are starting to come in thick and fast to prevent the cheap and most effective spam. Does look like the attack on the bottom right has been effective, taking out one lot of Kings. The spam going through, taking out the bits and pieces that are left over, and the Karganets just dealing damage as they waltz across and try to walk up the sides of many of these ramps. Attacking into the defenses is not the role that I would want to use these for. Get up into those eco centers. We know that these hills always hide a lot of extra stuff. We know that at the moment there is a bunch of vanguards on this bottom right hill that is going to continuously attack and kill these Karganets until they're taken out. We do need to see continued scaling from these.
coming through from the other side. They've come straight up to the bottom of the map, and we're going to get a little bit of a sandwich going on here. So Stomper not reacting quite fast enough to all of the units coming to the right. Didn't realise that there were Razorbacks right on his back door.
Chain reaction. Spread your wind out, boys and girls. If you don't, that happens, and you lose much larger amounts of wind much faster than you needed to do. One of the things that happens when the Kings do push past these defenses is that they get into zones that have absolutely nothing that can stop them. If these Razorbacks stopped dancing around these turrets, then they would be able to keep that push going, but with the extra reinforcements coming up the ramp, no worries. So this is going to be a nice big win for the Kings in this bottom left corner, as everything is pushing up, pushing through, and a lot of the peasants have fallen. But we're having a similar problem on the opposite side, where the peasants are pushing into the Kings very, very hard. The spam is no longer enough to keep them back. And the sort of units that you need to be dealing with this, you need your own long-range counter-fire, something like snipers to help take out those welders, but stuck on a vehicle lab, which means potentially going pulsars, but does not have the eco for it at the moment. Need to continuously scale. One thing we definitely can see from the King's side is not quite enough conversion at this time, as some of these players are starting to get their T3 up and running.
Yeah, just remember, people, with the King of the Hill in this game mode, even though it does look like the Kings are winning this quite convincingly on the bottom of the map and the right hand side of the map now, with Trebdog pushing up into the blue players, only takes one lane to fall, and the Kings are as good as dead, because that economy in the middle will chain react. So Regeki Classic on that top corner, a few other players doing work.
One of the other things to note is that even though the offense is going decently well on this bottom side, the spam and the offensive units are not working perfectly in unison, which means that many of the Razorbacks and snipers are falling just because the spam lines are not there. They're being
I think Tom's base being attacked by a bunch of ticks right now. They do just rush through, and they might get to this build power, the commander right there. Nothing going down, but ticks really doing work. Tank Tom's army composition, mostly snipers right now, and the gunslingers do take out the ticks, but not very quickly. You're better off getting welders in front of
definitely welders in this situation. But Tank Tom is moving most of his defenses back into this lane. He's been trying to help the lanes above, but is having to pull them back just to hold himself, and that does leave a nice big gap, as this squad of Starlights and Sheldons is now starting to push into the inner sanctum of these players. Webb himself not able to get the units out to defend. Does look like we even have some bedbugs coming in. They're going to try to get some of these eco centers. Hopefully there's enough build power inside the base to reclaim them before they can explode.
Going for that T2 lab by the looks. Wow, that does a lot of damage. One bedbug, two is going to take that out. 42% on one.
Pretty good, actually. I didn't realize that. Tank Tom realizing that he has to get on the offensive, but unfortunately does not have quite the right units. These gunslingers going in, and oh, they are gunslingers. Gunslingers a great skirmishing unit because of that healing factor and that range factor, but pushing them in on the front line, not quite strong enough to do that. And now these snipers have little to no defenses in front of them, and they're having to skirmish off against the Starlights. Definitely this top section
in that back the bottom corner, because the very bottom corner has now had to swing to the right to stop the aggression from Pink, which is quite extreme at the moment. The Starlight's the perfect answer to that T3 that was coming up, but what's happening right now is they're being turned around. You don't want to turn your Starlights around because they are so slow, and if the enemy is marching towards you, they will shoot you in the back, and you cannot shoot backwards with Starlights.
No, you cannot. Thankfully, though, enough of them get out that they're going to be quite the strong. Oof. Tank Tom's whole army falling over here. Not quite sure exactly what took it out. There were a lot of snipers, but there just probably wasn't enough spam defense. And I'm
just going to take your attention away to the light pink base. There is a single tick slowly just got killed as I was announcing that. Getting a T2 converted down to 70% damage before it got spotted.
Yes. Does look like Pink's offensive is going quite well. Rhaenyra very, very good with these snipers. taking out a com, taking out a lot of the counter snipers, and going to take out a lot of these starlights. The spam is in the right place. However, they have moved just that little bit too close to a couple of Sheldons on the high ground, losing a lot of those snipers, them having to push forward into a bad spot, losing most of those forces.
In the middle of the map. I think this is all over for the Kings.
Yes, the top section has managed to push in quite nicely. They're getting to the eco. That is an eco center going, a second eco center going, a third eco center going, and it does look like this is going to be all that she wrote for the Kings. Unfortunately, just unable to stop the economic juggernaut, which was that top left corner, as all sides now starting to fall. Well played by the Peasants. A very, very hard fought game for the Kings with 48 players in here. This was always going to be a tough one for the Kings. Great job by Winera for pushing out. Great job by White Syrup for also getting right up there, and Trev Dog with 3 players in the bottom right, managing to do a fantastic job, and Tank Tom for helping defend his new king on above him. Well played from the Kings on this one, but it does look like they have been overwhelmed by the sheer force of numbers and the micro and macro of all of the Peasants.
Winera's commander, probably the only Aphises left after these other ones fall, right in front of our screen. 2 Aphises left, sorry, 3 down there for Winera's base, and yes, 3 commanders left. They're going to be cleaned up pretty quickly. There goes 1, 2 to go, and now 1 to go. Trev Dog's being surrounded by a few welders, currently hidden, but I think they've been spotted a couple of times, and all of those units being pulled in between all these beamers.
Yes, and that is... We've got a Scuttle coming in, going for that last Aphis. 17% on it, and it is taken down. That's the last of the eco out of the Kings, and that is a Peasant victory. Very well done to the Peasants. Looking at that top left, we have 14 Aphis for Regeki. Damn.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Let's get to those graphs and check that. To have a Peasant take out the Destroying Enemy Resources Production Award, that is quite rare for this game, so very nicely done. Having said that, yeah, those Razorbacks, just massive chain reactions, so it does make sense. I correct myself there. Looking at those team stats with the damage dealt, Regeki coming online quite near the end there. Very good aggression out of the pink and red players, like you were saying. And let's look at that energy produced. Regeki ahead of every king for almost the entire game. That is insane. Metal produced up there at the start, and then taking over with that scaling that continued to happen. Nicely done. Regeki is quite seasoned at King of the Hill, been around for quite a few months and knows exactly what he's doing. Very well done to all the Kings. It definitely looked like they were going to win on that bottom lane for a while there, but all those backline ecos reacted and managed to cover all the loose ends, cleaning up the mess and ensuring a victory from that top left corner. Let's get to the next one.
Yes, we shall.
So while we've got quite a few viewers in the Twitch at the moment, I'll just repeat a little bit of what I said at the start of the stream. For those who don't know, the Alpha Cup Season 5 is currently on 2-day event. The second day of the stream will be happening straight after, maybe not straight after this stream. We might have to go to bed. It's getting quite late here in Australia. So it's a 1 versus 1 tournament. I think there's about 100 players in it. There's a $1,000 prize pool, which is amazing to hear for Bar. I do believe that's community funded as well, which is even more amazing. And the matches are 1 versus 1 and a best of 1 series for the early rounds, and that changes into a best of 3, I think, and then best of 5 for the finals. You do need to lose a minimum of 2 games to be eliminated. So yeah, quite a lot of action happening there today. There was about a 7-hour stream while I was sleeping, so I missed it. But definitely checking out those replays later on. They are exciting matches, and a bunch of big names casting those, the likes of Brightworks, Lost Dead Man. I forgot the rest, Kuchi. I'll get to them later. What has happened? We have had a crash.
Yes, I do believe that the mods may end up setting up a new lobby in a preferred server. I know that that one was having some stability issues for the players. Thanks, Ollie, for joining us. We appreciate you being here. And I did see you get that last APHIS from Winera. Congratulations on taking that one out and pushing all the way through with the rest of your team. We'll catch you next time. This stream will continue though. We're just going to get that one back online. Does look like Nightmare has kicked on a new server, and once that is, once we've given him a moment to get things up and running, we'll jump on in. So it looks like Tank Tom is in.
Yes.
Looks like I am in, and it looks like this server is populating. Congratulations and welcome to EU7, the most stable server in Bar that we know of. Glory to EU7 Classic, glory indeed. And let's hope that we can fill this back up with all the players that were unceremoniously kicked out of the previous lobby. It does look like we are going to do that. Remember, 8 kings, and I do think that one of the things that we should potentially talk about is whether or not we should set a minimum chevron count for the kings, because when there is one king that is new to learning the game, we do appreciate you joining in, but it is also massively impactful. It is 1/8 of the battle capabilities down there. So just wondering what your thoughts are on that one, Twig and Tank Tom.
I think that's probably not a bad idea. Whilst we'd love everyone to jump in, it does make it rather challenging when you're trying to hold your lane and the one next to you, because particularly with this one, if a single lane in the middle falls, then you've got access to all the eco and it goes pop real fast.
Yes, and when you're stuck defending and not being on the offensive, it most certainly does lean things a little bit towards the kings, towards the peasants in terms of overall victory. Just had another server crash with so many people joining so fast. Did run into some slight issues. If you've played in the 40v40 events that are hosted on very special occasions by the Beyond All Reason team, then you'll know that there is always some trouble when it comes to these servers with so many players.
How's your voice going, Prey? Do you feel like jumping in the middle this time? If we can get a lobby to work. There it goes again.
It depends. I'm happy to jump in. I'm also happy to commentate. It depends on what chat really wants. If they'd rather watch one from my perspective, then I can jump in. Otherwise, I can keep sitting out and doing the commentary, or just leave that one up to them. If this is a much more casual stream, for example, if this is on if we're not being hosted by the official channel, definitely going to be in there playing. You're not going to get any casting when it's just us, but when we're here, definitely a good opportunity to show off what's going on and give people a good chance to have a look.
Just setting this one back up, Prey. You can try and join off my name, but I don't know if it will work. We've locked the lobby just temporarily to allow it to be set up properly before it gets swarmed and inevitably crashes again.
Yes, we are pushing the limits of what is possible at the moment, and but we did manage to get a pretty specky game in. It's not every day that you manage to do an 8v48 win or lose. It's still fun to be a part of.
Okay, we've got a player limit 40 to start with. That might change depending how many people jump in here. And for those just tuning in, this is King of the Hill.
Chrono, you have been requested by the devs. They are asking whether you might be able to invert the map for us.
He does have a newborn baby on the scene, so
Yes.
I think he's in and out of the room. I can invert it, maybe. Oh no, but Chrono has that new.
Yes.
What Chrono's done is
fancy one.
somehow inverted it in some places more than others, so the ramps aren't as affected, but still allowing for those cliffs to stop any normal units walking up and down. We did have one game where you could just walk up anywhere, and no one realized it until about 10 minutes past the no rush timer, and then it was just all hell.
That should be the one we're looking for.
You've got Chrono's code, do you?
Yep.
I hope that's the most recent one after the he updated it, where everyone could walk
Yeah,
up every ramp.
that's the one at the bottom, so I think that's the correct one.
Okay.
If not, we'll find out.
Here's Chronographer now. I'm going to make him boss.
Always a little involved getting these lobbies up and running. We are pushing the envelope on what the game was designed to do.
Is air off right now? There's a few different things. We've
no.
got extra unit packs turned on by Flow. That could be interesting. Or maybe you want to throw air off. It's just too much. Very easy to bomb at the King's Eco Center, because I can tell you where it is every game. It's in the center.
You don't have to get particularly accurate, as long as you get vaguely.
What do you mean the eco's in the center? That's crazy. That's crazy talk. We can't have that. Everyone.
If you get real lucky, all the ecos would touch.
All of the kings, you have new orders. Build your ecos in the corners of the map. I command thee.
Actually, I have found in these King of the Hills where sometimes 1/4 of the map does fall. It is a great spot to build your backup eco, get your res bots out there and resurrect pretty much everything.
You have to take the
have a secondary
ground.
Eco.
You have to actually claim the ground that you take.
Okay, Tom, are you hitting those kings with some bonuses? We know that it's dangerous if I do that.
Yes, we do not want people that have spent a little while trying to get into the lobby getting kicked.
55 bonus, maybe a little bit much.
Oh, sorry. That's me being blind.
We're going 50s?
We only got 33
no, 45.
at the top, so yeah, 45.
Yeah, 45. Let's keep it what we always keep it. We get lots of wins from the Kings on 45% bonus. I do think ever since these got a bit bigger, maybe a few more losses than usual for the Kings, but we still had a win last week with the 45%.
A big driving factor is whether it's fighting up or fighting down. This should be much more balanced because we've sort of squashed the map if it's what we're thinking it is. So the ramps should still be the only access points, but they shouldn't particularly be a huge fight up or down along those ramps for either team. No, we're gonna need some more people in.
2 more Kings. Thank you for Manura jumping down there. One of the AllReasonNoLogic regulars who hosts some of our vs AI nights, Europe night time, I believe it is. And for those of you who don't know us, we are AllReasonNoLogic, Twig, Tank Tom, Pradith. We host these games every Sunday, whether it be on this bar channel or at home at AllReasonNoLogic. We find that these are just a real fun game mode for any skill, and it's good where you get some kings fall, some win, and creates kind of a very asymmetrical game style where you have a lot of chaos. One more king.
One more king if we can. Grab.
We're not gonna get anyone else. I can jump in again if we need to, just to get us rolling.
If you are happy to do that. There we go.
There we
There's
go.
one more king. Excellent.
Thank you very much.
It does look like we have a good balance down at the bottom right now. And a good mix of OSs at the top. It does look like a couple of the absolutely insanely powerful players have decided to sit this one out. We're not going to get another absolutely insane Regeki eco in that top corner, which might give the kings a bit more of a chance.
Okay, we're
rules
just
have
gonna do a
been
quick
posted, and we are
of some of these IDs.
yes. So just for those watching, one of the things that can happen with so many players is that multiple people get assigned the same ID. You use !S in the window in the chat, and that will bring up a list of everyone's IDs. You're looking for the numbers which don't fit.
Match.
Yes. And then you can assign them new IDs by using the force, then the !force, player name, ID, and then a new number. If you pick a number, it doesn't overly matter what the number is, as long as we keep them as 2 digits. I don't know if 3 will work, so just keep them as 2 digits, and make sure that they're not a copy of something that's already there. If you can see on the chat, there are 2 37s. I do believe that there are 2 16s and a few others spattered through. You just got to do your best, and once you've got it sorted out, you can start. You might have to do it a few times to get it exactly right. It does occasionally shuffle people around.
Hey, just a great suggestion there in the chat by Small. Need a widget for these IDs. That'd be great if they were colourful, if there was a match of them. Just a little bit of text to highlight which ones.
Question is, do widgets work in the lobby?
Probably not.
I haven't seen any.
I
That
haven't
doesn't
seen
mean
any
that they don't
lobby widgets,
exist.
but if somebody wants to make a lobby widget that does everything for us for hosting King of the Hill maps, let me know, and we'll get you and we'll get you in the AllReasonNoLogic Discord, and we'll be best friends.
Yeah, let's try that.
Righty then. There we go.
Done.
We are in, and I have successfully changed the scene. Sorry about that one for the first game. I really need to buy myself an Elgato Stream Deck so that I can just have the scene switching in front of me. I'm only working on a very small amount of space here. Definitely don't have enough monitors to do all of the streaming and setup.
I'm laughing because I've seen his setup, and he definitely does.
I do not. I definitely don't. This is complete. This is an insult to my character, and I don't have a leg to stand on, and I'm just going to be indignant about it.
So the best setup for these kings to start the game off is, you can see those little hills. There's 8 hills. So simply take all the mexes in between 8 of those, each king starting with 7 mexes. One thing I'd love to see is a 9 king start, and have that 9th king take the 7 mexes in the middle, and then 6 around the outside for each of the 8 kings, with that 1 super king in the middle going for T3. Maybe we'll see that in the future.
Yes, I would actually really like to see someone like Regeki or Twig or Flo or someone along those lines, very, very strong player, taking all of those mexes in the very middle, dropping everyone else down to just those 6 mexes, but then helping assist the team in that first 10 minutes, then trying to scale themselves very hard to say 5 to 10 APHIS, then power down one area and start sweeping around the map. It would be a very interesting one to see. I know that we are planning at least one of these coming up to be a little bit smaller in the in lead up to Easter, just on our channel. If we do get that, we're going to trial a couple of things like Legion and like doing the 9 Kings. Just give us the opportunity to practice when we're not taking up the time of 50 plus people. But not to mention,
I just won noughts and crosses. Got to point that out.
Oh, it's one of my.
Oh, that you that was doing it.
I
saw it and just started filling it in. I was like, I wonder what's going on.
I do love the creative uses. Somebody did draw an elephant over the middle of the map, which I did quite like. But let's get ourselves into a little bit of the game itself. Let's have a quick talk about it for those that are jumping in new to the stream. We have King of the Hill right here, and this time it's actually a hill. If you look, because of one of the players in our community, Chrono, they have created a special modification which allows for the map to be somewhat inverted, but not as inverted as it would be if it was completely inverted. Please stop me, I'm rambling.
No aggressive ramps for either team to fight up, so it should be a somewhat balanced front, whereas without the modifications, it's a fairly steep ramp, and there's a definite benefit to whoever's fighting down the hill.
Yes. And one of the big reasons that we do this inversion is that the kings are usually less capable of building turrets that can attack down than the peasants, and it just makes it a little bit easier. We've also found the balance to be fractionally better. Like this, the kings have a little bit more opportunity to get on out there into the rest of the map. So, how can the kings possibly win this from the middle? Well, to start with, there is no air, which means that both sides are safe from that. No need to spend the resources to do it. There is a 10-minute no rush, which means that both sides get the opportunity to build up. And the kings also have plus 45, sometimes fractionally more depending on the number of players. And it is their job to do as well as they possibly can in that first 10 minutes to get as much eco and as much aggression going on. Looking around the outside, all players need to stay off the ramps for that first 10 minutes, and over the course of the whole game, do not build structures that can attack. Do not build structures and use them to attack other players' buildings. So that means don't build yourself artillery structures right near the inside ring. You're more than welcome to build things like tactical missiles, EMPs, Junos. Just use them defensively, not offensively. If there is spam coming up the ramp, feel free to Juno the top of the ramp. Do not Juno the place the ticks are coming from, because with the kings being so bunched in, they do not have the option to spread their stuff out. And let's jump into this one.
So this one's probably the most balanced game that we've seen tonight of the three games. First one obviously very much in the favor of the kings, complete stomping thanks to Tank Tom's doing everything, and the second game a lot closer, but still we just had that extreme eco in the corner of the map. This one here, we do have Classic still in this game. They are a dangerous player in King of the Hill, but the middle of the map, everyone's got at least, well, I was going to say everyone's got at least 5 chevrons, but we do have 1-3 chevron there. I'm sure they know what they're doing though. We do have Legion on for the first time on King of the Hill, and we've also got the extra units pack on, so that's going to be really interesting. I don't play with those units very much, so do excuse me if I don't get the names right.
Yes, didn't realize those ones were on, so this will be a very interesting test.
Okay. Seeing everything's pretty typical here out of the middle. I do like starting where the light pink player did start, closest mexes together, so you can get 2 mexes pretty early in the game. All the other commanders starting back in the middle there, only able to get 1. Having said that, Rhaenyra has taken 2, even though they should be taking only 1. That means 1 king's only going to get 6 mexes. Oh well, is what it is. Sharing the love.
As long as the metal's being taken and used, it's generally not too big of a deal.
Once you get to that 20-minute mark, the kings are usually overflowing anyway in all directions, and it just becomes an APM game.
You start building the conversion for someone else and not the build power, so you can eat all the metal that they give you. Those sorts of things. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Does look like a couple of the kings have chosen Legion, and quite a lot of the peasants have as well. So we're going to have a different mix of units to usual. One of my favorite things about Legion is these windmills. Don't know why they're much more aesthetically pleasing than a regular windmill, but they are. Maybe it's because I grew up on Halo and saw windmills like this in Reach. Never forget.
Rhaenyra throwing the first T2 lab down maybe a little bit early. With not enough metal in the bank right now, but going to build a storage and reclaim that T1 lab most likely. I said that a lot of mixes up already. Nicely done. doing the exact right thing. You want to send constructors down the line of all those mexes instantly. The first two constructors you build, I usually use that spacebar command to just start the construction turret in base before my first constructor leaves, get the commander to finish off and send that constructor on to build 3 of the mexes out towards the outside of the map, and then my second constructor doing the same down the adjacent line, third constructor getting into wind. And then yeah, these little res bots as well, jumping around and taking the little money, or sorry, metal and energy around the map. Not much to go between all the kings, but only 2 going for those crystals at the moment, and they'll clean them all up shortly for that little bit of an economic boost. I do prefer going bots at the start of the king position, just for those boosts that you can get.
One of the
Some
interesting
corners.
things about doing a Legion build with this is because you get different amounts of metal out of your T1 mexes. I imagine that's going to throw a bunch of things out of whack.
Yes.
You're right.
And I would
So
say that
what are
is
we
one
looking
of
at? We're
the...
looking at 1.5 compared to 1.9 for the standard mexes, so a little bit less. And yeah, I do prefer the Cortex and Armada Eco over the Legion in this one for that reason, because it is about getting to T2 in this game, not T1. So you can overcharge a couple of these maybe quite early. I haven't seen that out of anyone yet though. Keeping them all as the standard mexes. Only 2 kings going into the Legion.
T2's already up for the peasants.
Yes, T2's up in the top right and top left for the peasants. Has been since 3 minutes and 20 seconds in the top right and 3 minutes and 40 seconds in the bottom, top left and bottom left. Just came up recently in the top right and just started in the bottom right. So the peasants certainly trying to copy that co-op eco style and get all of their corners nice and set.
Hey, props to the players. No one's broken the rules yet.
Wait.
Last game there was like 10 at this stage. I shouldn't have said that.
That's unheard of. This... Oh, that's official. I died, and I'm in heaven. I never thought this day would come, but we have people that actually read... Oh, no, we didn't. One player down the bottom, building walls the entire way around the high ground. Look, it's not legal, but I'm just gonna let that pass. That doesn't really do anything.
It enforces the terrain, so I'm gonna say it's fine, because you can't get bots up and down that anyway.
Yes. I do like these cameras in that top section over there. Probably a little bit early for them. You want to dedicate as much of your resources as possible.
It's a lot of cameras as well.
Early on, but it is what it is. Looks like some pretty heavy distribution of T2. Sitting around the map, there are already 6 in the top left corner moving around. In the bottom left, there are 7, and in the bottom right, there's... No, there are not. Top right, just a handful moving around. Just 2. So it does look like the top left corner and the bottom left corner are going to be very strong positions, getting that T2 to everyone as early as possible. The overall metal that you can give your team is super important in this game type. The helping your teammates is helping yourself, because the kings are essentially one unit that has to spread out, and the peasants are one unit that has to converge in the center.
If you can give that benefit to the person that's in front of you that's going to hold the line, that gives you another 5 minutes to build your eco to keep churning, so then you can actually push in with a solid force.
Yes.
Right, with Legion enabled, do you reckon you're going to see your new favourite unit in the game in this?
I do not believe that the Sol Invictus is going to make it out. That is such an expensive unit, and if we were going to see it, we would be seeing Jugs in these matches far more often. But at the moment, we do not see those pop up very often at all, so I don't think we're going to get a Sol Invictus. However, if somebody wants to build a Sol Invictus, please build a Sol Invictus. They're so cool. Like, I don't know who designed them, but they are so damn cool.
What do you think we're going to see differently with this?
The next 30 in the middle here.
What do you think we're going to see differently with this extra unit pack turned on? Do you reckon
Uh,
players are going to go for those more expensive units?
Sorry, Twig, are you seeing what's happening at the Raid King?
Yes. I didn't notice that was occurring.
That's
But
awesome.
that is
That's
great to
really
see.
awesome.
Hmm.
Getting an APHIS down and utilizing everyone's metal and build power. This is going to be very, very tough for the
And you can
peasants.
see as soon as it's up, the overflow hits everyone.
Are we going to have enough units out at the 10-minute mark? This is a great tactic, but I do have to say it's 8 minutes 30. This lab still has 20 to 30 seconds left on it by the looks of things. And we've got no spam going around here. If the peasants were building units right now and rushed them, they would be under a lot of danger, but I think it might pay off for the Kings, because looking around the bases, there's only one army of blitzers on that right-hand side of the map. Apart from that, we're looking at a lot of...
When you're in
eco-hungry
these
players.
situations, it's always a gamble to go, do you have enough defenses? Are you going to run into an impenetrable wall? Or is it going to be a few LLTs and you can charge on through?
Yes.
And a lot of that information you don't have necessarily, although it looks like there's some radars up that are giving some useful information. Not that you can necessarily tell exactly what the dots are, but you can normally guess.
It is.
So it's going to be an interesting start looking at this.
It is, and with 30 seconds away, what are we going to have? I would love to see some spam to support these T3 units. They are very susceptible to D-guns this early in the game. We do have some players that have encroached a little bit too far up the ramps. Just bear this one in mind. People, do not go onto the ramps. Do not go onto the ramps.
I think we're letting this one go because it looks like that player is playing defensively, a little bit newer to this. Well,
but
10
we
minutes
are
is
at
up.
the 10 minutes. We are going to get a large number of blitzers heading through.
Ooh.
And the only thing that's going to be here to stop them is 2 pop-up dragon claws. And that is not a lot to stop a force of 42 blitzers. We did mention that if you...
though, 2 Razorbacks is definitely big enough to stop them.
Yeah, that's definitely going to hurt. But the blitzers are faster than Razorbacks, aren't they?
Are we going to get splits?
Blitzers
They are, but they're not going to be faster.
99 versus a speed of 69. So yes, they are faster, but it doesn't look like they're going to get around. Still some damage done. I would say that this is in fact worth it because it did stop those Razorbacks from walking up the cliff. Problem is, now very, very vulnerable to go up that cliff. Does look like we have an attack coming up here. The camera's not quite providing the defenses necessary, but it does give advance warning and let those Razorbacks get around and go.
Unfortunate those tick to a left in that middle rather than pushing all the way in.
Yes. Do have a comm going for some D-guns, but it does also mean they're going to be alone out there. There is plenty of units to get a surround, but with the comm moving back into range of those turrets, not going to happen. But these shell shockers are definitely capable of dealing damage. Invisible comm heading up to skirmish with the Razorback. Comm just standing there waiting for the Razorback to make its way in. Does look like the comm may be able to get that D-gun on, and it does. This is why you need spam to accompany those big T3 units. There are going to be so many comms at the top of these ramps.
More push from the top right of the map and more blitzers, but this time going away from the Razorbacks, the better move. Yes. Not going to like the pop-up turrets that they're about to come across. Those pop-up turrets taking 2 shots per unit to take them out with a little bit of splash damage happening. I wouldn't mind once again seeing some splitsies in these armies, and we might have done some economic damage. We might still going to hit this first mix.
They are going to make it in.
And we will get the chain reaction off these wins if they pop,
there we
which
go.
they do.
So 1 mechs and 1 wind, and for this maroon player, that is actually a big chunk of their eco because they did not have a fusion. It does look like someone's built an epic recluse, and it is struggling to deal with the spam that is coming in around it. It's getting lots of damage off when it does fire, but still not the best thing at dealing with the spam, but all cleaned up and nice.
What do you think from this first couple minutes? Is this T3 rush worth it?
It depends on what you
Right
get
now,
done
in
with
this
it.
situation, like,
It's held, so I'm gonna say yes, but it puts you in a weaker spot at that 10-minute mark because you've got a handful of high investment units, and ideally they're investments that you'd like to protect with something else around them. We've already seen at least one die to a D gun.
what we can see on the
So-
left-hand side of the map is what has kind of put us off of using Legion in these game modes, and it is that napalm. You just spit it out onto these ramps
And there
on
is.
a attack ground, and there's not much you can do about it in an early stage of the game.
Yes.
Those Infernos doing work, and they're just going to keep putting damage on these units, and then that ramp's essentially going to be impassable if you got enough units doing the same thing continuously.
Looking like mutually assured destruction there with napalm on both sides.
Does
Just
look like
pinging you
that
down the
epic
bottom there.
recluse has made its way down to the bottom of the map. This is a pretty big deal for the T3, but it is not pushing it deeper in, so only a couple of mexes go down. The comm that was defending this ramp is now down, which leaves it open for the Razorback. The big difference here was that spam, and the comm was not able to get the D-guns off. That Razorback should be able to clean up these LLTs, should be able to walk straight over these walls, because it is a T3 unit. Those do not stop T3. T3 goes where it pleases. T3 is Mundo. And then getting into the back lines. This is what you've got to do when you get that unit pass. Don't try and fight the things, just take out as much of the eco as possible. Don't worry about those comms, they're not going to catch you. They are slower than you. Just keep walking forward, keep dealing damage. These players are not going to have the defenses they need to deal with it. Don't stop to take out those wins, because you're going to be walking away from your objective. Your objective is to clear out this player in the middle who thought he was super safe. But thankfully, because of that, does manage to get it. Going for the, going to self-D that one, so there is no corpse. I would have waited a little bit longer, but I guess with those banishes out, that was the right call. And all of this damage has been done. All these units pulled back to defend, and now there is a group of Razorbacks getting ready to punch down. Looking at the top right, similar story over
Good
here.
response coming through on this bottom side. Some units have made it in, and they're now seeing what they can find.
Some ticks over here, destroying that epic recluse. What a badass group of ticks, all of them. Absolutely top tier, many chevrons, many ranks. But now we have all of the Razorbacks pushing in, and the comms
We
are
do have
out
a
of position.
leak on the left-hand side. We have pushed through that one ramp that I did say wasn't going to fall because of Legion, so I was wrong there. But the Belcher's coming in and returning fire. We might have a comm go down. It is our lowest chevron player for the Kings, but they're doing quite well. Kind of holding onto their base tighter than a toddler with a juice box. I think it will hold just because of the slowness coming out of these Legion units. If we get a reaction, that is, out of the teammates surrounding. We might not. If these pawns just rush on in, we'll see those winds go down, and then those energy converters should fall pretty damn quickly. If that commander goes
Energy
pop where it
converters
is
do
right
like
now,
to go pop.
Com just sitting in that fire loses 10%,
No
15% of
pings.
the health. Got to get these
Ping,
pings out.
ping.
The team has got to get in and help. If this player falls, then that is going to be a whole lane that they have to deal with, that they no longer have the resources to deal with. This is a
being
big problem.
pulled from the north, a bunch of balls coming down. This pink player's eco is holding on by a thread, and that thread is just 3 wind turbines spinning around.
Looks like we're seeing the responses coming out now, so they won't quite crack the middle.
Well, comm going down, nicely done.
This does stop the offenses of the other players, and while this is going on, Rhaenyra has left himself open to the attacks from his concurrent player. These phalanxes and snipers coming in doing what they can, but having to fight into Prometheus. These Prometheus, very strong units. They can take quite the hit, and they deal a good amount of damage. Resbot's up on the high ground. We do like seeing that. You've got to eat what you take, or resurrect it and claim the area yourself. Looks like Red's push has been blunted. Those Razorbacks only managing to do minimal damage, and the yellow and the cream push also stopped in their tracks. The players still alive out there.
Still
Continue
getting pushes through on the left-hand side, but the opposite is happening on the right-hand side. We do have some resbots trying to come up and do some reclaims on the right. They're not going to get much happening though, with a whole bunch of these striders chasing them back up the ramp, similar speed though, so they're not going to quite get them. And all the Razorbacks responding to those coming over to save the day.
One of the
Resbots very
Razorbacks
important in the King of the Hill.
One of the Razorbacks deep in the right-hand side, unfortunately only able to get a lab and a little bit of wind. That comm is going to be in range to give it the D-gun. Did miss the opportunity there though and get taken out, so it does look like it's going to continue through. Those Sheldons should be able to clean it up with that spam though. I would like to see a self-D out of this one so they can't res it. It was a very good move previously.
That left side's done a great job.
I do like mass goblins. They are very, very cheap. And I do believe that they are not destroyed by the Juno, is that correct?
I'm not sure, but it's a really satisfying looking line with them all coming out like that.
Yes, if you're looking at the mini-map, that does look very, very nice. And these are starting to push on in. What we need from behind is some sort of heavy attacker that can make use of the vision and the stopping of the defenses. Does look like a couple of the Prometheus have broken this area and made it down into the area. So Winero definitely pulling more than his fair share of weight in this left side and giving the pink player an opportunity to recover. Unfortunately, they are trying for that lab with low wind, low build power. They definitely do need to scale themselves back into the game. Getting units right, getting 1 or 2 units right now isn't going to make the biggest difference, but getting back into it and becoming a powerhouse to help in 5 minutes definitely will.
On the left hand side here, only finally do a bunch of pawns come over and help out. For a while there, it was looking like this base was kind of like a scene out of the Titanic. No one coming to help, but luckily that changed.
Do like seeing the Daedalus. Daedalus is a very nice, very cool looking unit. Reminds me of a Zoid I built a very, very long time ago. A whole stack of guns on top. Very lovely. What have you seen, Twig?
Exactly what you were looking at the same time. I thought that's why you said it. You saw my cursor there. That's a unit I haven't used. I haven't used Legion much in the game, as you guys know. I do stick to the base game just so the very few times I get to play this competitively, I stick to the base game because I am no good at learning new things.
We have had a breakthrough on the right side after several attempts. There has finally been a successful one where enough Razorbacks have overwhelmed the defensive position and the Kings have pushed up. Big advice for the Kings: if you do manage this, stop production on a couple of units just for a second, get yourself a whole load of butlers or equivalent, put some towers up here to stop spam from breaking out, take all the mexes, reclaim everything, get the metal, res it if you can get resbots up, and do your best. Does look like a counterattack is coming up of grunts. There is plenty for them to do, but there is also plenty of defenses. Big hits by these vanguards, taking out a whole chunk of them, and spaced out LLTs and other defenses, making sure that they can't get in. But I do like
bottom
the
right
attempt.
is in a struggle.
Yes.
So I don't see any kings in walking distance. Sorry, commanders in walking distance of these. So 6 Razorbacks, 7 Razorbacks.
Once you start getting an army of those, it gets very difficult to deal with them because you can't really overwhelm them with spam when there's enough of them that they can fill the space shoulder to shoulder.
And they do kick out a very nice amount of damage. They're decently ranged, they're very fast, they're a great unit for this mix. They're a great unit for this game type. So it does look like, even though we were a little worried about that T3 from the combined T3 from those players, it does look like it's worked very well, and sharing them out is very strong. These wins just a little bit too close together and chain reacting. You notice that as soon as they stopped being next to each other, they stopped chain reacting, means that you didn't have a full squares space in between them. Does look like the purple player...
Oh, but the Razorbacks have turned around. Going into the pulsars is not the right move when there's no energy. And you can see that pulsar just not shooting. Finally getting a shot off. Does get 50% in one shot, but better I reckon the one pulsar with a bunch of spam would have been the better move.
Yes,
And
the
space
Razorbacks
will
would have had to deal with that. You could have potentially gotten the surround damage, the surround bonus, and you actually would have had the pulsar firing.
Some
There is a
danger from the Kings on the top left of the screen, and one of the new Cortex units, the Deadeye, well, not that new actually, it's been around a while, you just don't see it because it is an extra unit. It is kind of like a sniper with a triple pulse shot, as you just saw on my screen. I don't know if you're seeing that, Praedyth.
I saw the end
similar
of it,
reload.
and I should see another. There it goes.
Yeah.
They use a lot
Interesting
of
unit.
energy, these.
Very, very energy hungry.
That top left corner has done a good job of occupying this top section.
But it does look like the top
There has
right
been
is
a lot of fighting going on.
does look like the top right is falling as well, with another push down. Razorbacks backed up with spam, and then we have plenty of vanguards on the high ground just shelling down. But this is a big problem. All the Kings need to deal with this because everyone's eco is centralized. Once you crack a single king, it makes big problems for everyone. I don't think there'll be quite
these
enough.
vanguards, have they got vision on any of the eco yet?
Let's have
There's
a
four
quick
of them
look.
that have
Player
been pulled
view.
back.
They do have a little bit. They know where the far aphis are, but they do not know where the close ones are. Getting an epic pulsar down for defense. That's a big boy.
That's a big boy.
It does look like
Yeah.
Winera is now getting into some of this eco with a few of these Cargonets, but a Bastion is going to be blocking it. You never know, we might actually be able to get the Soul Invictus out this game. Certainly going long, the Kings are well
An
positioned.
epic bulwark come up in that lane on the bottom left-hand side. So the first huge defensive unit. They do work when they're up.
If you can power
I
those. There's also
reckon
some mini
you're-
Starfalls that are keeping that ramp under control. Do like the use of the extra units where you can.
Another king going down on a peasant going down on the bottom of the map, the green player there. Not much between what is going to be a absolute dominating line of spam along with Razorbacks for the yellow and red player. I don't think there is much of an answer, so unless the bottom left come online pretty quickly, which they could do because there are 6 aphises sitting right there doing their thing. Get some units out, quick, smart. Because you're going to have some enemy on your doorstep very shortly.
I have officially joined the Kings team with my support because I want to see that bottom left side chain react. That is density like I have never seen before.
I suspect your dreams are going to be answered in a couple of minutes.
I may have made that prediction based on complete and total map knowledge. Because if you look at the top side as well, we've had very, very strong pushes. This Vanguard, Razorback and Spam combo has been running a riot through this entire map. Very, very well done from these players. If you have a look in, Red is still producing all of the Razorbacks. It is the other players that are producing the Spam and the backup units. They've just left one person to do the Razorback, and they're working together as a singular unit. It's a Soul Invictus. It is the big boy. It is the Chonk Master. It is the best unit in the game with those shoulder-mounted lasers. Can you believe how beautiful that unit is? Kings need to stop attacking that because I am now officially on the Peasants team. This thing must go and destroy. Kings need to just submit to its awesomeness.
Based on how close that is,
building one too. We're going to have Soul Invictus versus Soul Invictus in about 50
No.
seconds.
that was the one that I saw.
Soul Invictus need to work together. Don't fight each other, join teams. Become the king. Become the Soul Invictus.
This thing, if it keeps... Oh no, it's backing up. It could probably have done damage against those Aphis. Can we see them? Yes, there is visibility for this player of that Aphis. But running away from those Vanguards, not going to get there, and Winera's commander conveniently coming down just as a backup in case we get a change of mind.
Yes.
Oh,
You have
green
it.
has made its way into pink space.
Oh,
and we are
that was
seeing
so
the build power
close.
go down again. And is this commander going to get targeted by these Prometheus? I don't think so. And a D-gun taking one out, and probably the next one to come.
Where is this happening, Twig?
The light pink player just took them all out, but you can see their base is heavily
Yep.
damaged now.
Yep.
Ah.
Sorry, I was looking at the eco that got just taken out by the last shot out of a Razorback in the bottom, in the very bottom middle of the screen. So that is another
That's
player's
Solid
ecos
Victor's
down.
doing a good job of
Look
completely
at him
shutting
go.
down that spam line out of Winera.
Look at him go. But now we have Soul on Victus.
The
and
commander's
Soul
in
on...
vision.
Oh
and
dear.
The commander's going to go pop.
Commander went pop.
Oh, we're going to see some build power go down if this is microed properly. This Pilum, I haven't seen the Pilums before, taking out the build power for all that Winera spam, and they could potentially get through.
Uh-oh.
They're in.
Uh-oh. There is Razorbacks coming to deal with them, and I don't know if there's going to be... Oh, it stopped. It did get a bunch of the conversion, but it's not going to get the big prize, which is the Aphis and conversion up there. Good hold by the Kings, but we're definitely... the Kings definitely are not out of the... Oh, we just had a Janus go off in that middle of the map. Just remember, people, do not use those offensively. Buildings are for defensive use only.
Our right hand side is down, but everyone's coming online now, and the peasants are coming back like it's a Black Friday at the gates of Costco.
Peasants are still ahead on eco at this stage.
Have we got enough?
Are they going to fight me for a TV or something?
I don't actually think the
Ooh.
TVs at Costco are that cheap.
I don't know. It's just you just
It's
see
those
people do
bags
crazy
of like
things.
10,000 nuts. That's where you get your value. That you have in the back of your shelf
Or
for
if you
like
can,
3 years.
Or if you can wait for the Pokemon trading card sets to go on sale, those will do you well.
These vanguards slowly making their way in. King's very lucky to have no eco near that left-hand side of the map. I wouldn't mind seeing them come further south and pick on the weak link. I would suggest with the light pink player's base going down. There is a Titan there though, which will do work against these.
Those
Unless these snipers come online.
need to spread out,
Send
but they are
shooting.
getting surrounded by the spam. There's good vision. The Vanguards are going to back out yet again. These things have been sitting around just doing
Beans.
a lot of damage. Beans?
Oh, we have a long range napalm launcher here.
They
Gonna block off this.
died against
is
the Big
that?
Dragon's Furies. Ooh, calm down on the
Ooh,
left
calm
side.
down. And that's the hole reopened
Oh,
into the
Classic's
base.
Classic's base just got absolutely destroyed. He had been hanging on for so long then. That was the top of the map, but we do have a lot more of these.
Solid
things
push
coming
on this
through.
left-hand side.
Yes.
I
There is a
think this
big
is
push
getting
heading
through.
into the Kings, but into the middle there. Plenty of defense to try and deal with this, but there are 20 of these Pilums that are going to be walking
Lots
their
of-
way in.
Panicked command coming out of the Kings at the moment.
Spam trying to get in there and do their work, but these units are reasonably tanky, and the chain reaction right there, the build power going down. They really do need to punch in that little bit deeper though and get those Aphis. If they can... Oh, big damage,
Ooh.
big damage. That was a
Can we get
lot.
to one more bet?
And they're still
And
alive
there's still
too.
some alive.
They're punching in for that next section. Razorbacks
They
can
are
get in the way,
fast.
but I reckon these guys are
fast.
going to get that eco center. I reckon they're going to get those
Fast
pink Aphis.
Go for
There.
the converters first.
Get in there. There we go.
Yes.
Ooh.
That's
Wow.
huge. That's the Kings dropping down by a little over 50% of their eco, and it is
That
a
is how
giant
fast it
hole.
happens, people.
That is how fast
Just
these
like
games
that.
can turn on a dime. The Kings have been doing so well, but that one big push, that one big set of units, absolutely massive. This is similar to what we saw the other day, where the peasants were basically completely defeated. They were down to about 2 players left, but they sent 5 juggernauts in. And if they had had a 6th juggernaut, they would have taken all the Kings out instead of losing. A jug does come up into this top right side, though. These peasants have come online. They are taking out more of this eco, and with that middle section fallen, there was not the defense to stop that jug.
I tell you, somewhere a bar developer is watching and thinking that this is how we intended this game to be played. That was some good action.
Yes, it was. That was phenomenally good. And this is why we love doing the King of the Hill games. I thought this one was in the bag for the Kings. With cleaning up one section and expanding into it, this is a ludicrous amount of eco for one player to have, and fantastic additional attack vectors, but it just has not been enough. And now the peasants
have teamed up well this game.
Eco. Fantastic work by that purple pretty Havers.
We do have a lot of recovery happening at the moment. Red is expanding nicely into the bottom of the map along with yellow. You can see some of those rezzed fusion reactors that I had suggested it was a good idea to do earlier. And look at the amount of res bots. We've got 400 of them going around the map, just cleaning everything up, making sure that metal's staying with the Kings. Hey, there is still a chance. We had a game 2 weeks ago.
The Kings are not out of this yet. They're in
the middle.
They're in dire
we had all but
straits.
2 Kings fall and come back somehow, and yeah, after winning no lanes essentially, somehow came back just off of 2 ecos.
If they can keep the peasants largely in their sections where they currently are, there's a reasonable chance that they can reset and make some decent pushes again.
If the peasants really want to get this one in the bag, they really need to clear the Kings out of half of that middle and grab all that reclaim, get it pumped into their own eco, strengthen themselves, and then get ready for some pretty massive pushing, because this is going. Oof! We just had one of Yellow's eco centers go down as I believe a jug exploded in the middle of it. That is a nice big chunk of their eco down. Very hard to tell exactly what's going on for the red team as far as their eco, because so much of it is reclaim, but they are sitting at, I would say without the reclaim, they're sitting well below that 1,000 mark.
Some more pillums coming in on the left hand side. I do feel sorry for Bid-O Iluf, the light pink player whose base has fallen about 4 times this game so far.
Props.
But doing well to rebuild every single time, not giving up. I do see players drop out of games in bar when they get frustrated. That's not how to play the game. Just keep going until you know that it's definitely lost. I mean, I'm all for a resign vote if you're 100% sure you're going to lose.
I don't know. Somehow the red team has managed to turn their eco around, and they're currently well and truly ahead of the blue team. They hopefully will have an opportunity to get back into the game. 1.45 million metal for the red team, but this is.
Are these pillums going to
has been seen.
That's interesting. That is very interesting. Does this give a bigger explosion if it goes pop?
I really want to know.
We are about to find out.
Doesn't look like the Sol Invictus Strike Force was able to defend this one. Very, very awesome unit. Look at its majesty. Look at all the little details, like even just on the arms. The little hexagonal patterns. I wonder just how long these took to design. I would really like to meet the person in charge of all of their designs. These are every now and then you see a unit in a game that is just something genuinely special, and that is what these are, in my opinion. There is just something about them that is just perfect.
Don't get too excited, Trey.
It's a giant mech, Twig. It is a giant mech. If you are not excited, there is something wrong with you.
Shit.
Oh dear. Does look like the peasants going to be making some pretty big waves in this Sol Invictus. Is so close to getting to that build power, and once that goes up, that's going to be 5 of the very, very precious mexes. 5 of the very, very precious APHIS being taken down. It does look like it is going to self-D. Question is, can it take down those APHIS first? It does not. It gets eaten. It got eaten by the build turrets. That's, I did not expect that. And those APHIS
Red has resurrected the infinite resources.
That's excellent.
Back up there.
That's excellent. If as long as they can get the build power online, they have the potential to really push out massive spam now available from the yellow player. but it does look like it is just that little moment too late, as the Shivas are going to get in and take out some of this build power. The Great D-Guns does manage to make most of it survive. Only one set of labs taken offline. Question is, what is
Souls
the...
doing work? I don't know if the peasants are going to crack through the top here. Having said that, most of the eco is now appearing in the bottom corner of the map with all the mexes. Those mexes doing probably just as much metal as the conversion is at the moment. The hill looking very dissimilar to its former self. It's been built tall, and Kings fell hard, and it's kind of looking like they're emotionally unavailable up on the hill, but still somehow holding a very much strong army presence, despite the bases being all but destroyed.
I do want to see these Sol Invictus heading up on in and trying to take out the eco centers up here. It's one of the only ways that the Kings might be able to get back into it, because then they will control this bottom right corner, and they'll be able to expand into the bottom left and turn it into a match that runs across the that runs top to bottom. Would give them a good chance, but the eco is still so heavily in the peasants' favour. It is now essentially a 4-to-1, though that could be just due to some reclaim shenanigans at the moment.
There's some big eco on the top right of the screen there, and you're seeing that with more Sol Invictus coming out of the purple players. You've got to see what you wanted.
I did.
There isn't just one or two of these. We're seeing them everywhere.
Everywhere.
This has turned into a big, huge game. I reckon it's lucky I hit the record button. I think we might have to replay this one on our weekly Sunday upload for next week.
Very good
quite the action.
idea. Look at this. Titans and Sol Invictus all in one attack. What a beautiful sight.
More Pilums getting through to the economy in the middle of the map. I think these are the unit of the game. Even
They're
though
so
the Sol
fast.
Invictus look pretty, I'm a little bit more excited by these things.
Oh, they are very,
maybe
very
not
cool
gonna
units,
quite
but
get
they're not
there.
a Sol
They're
Invictus.
very hardy as well.
One of the things I like is their damage is very upfront. It's not like a Razorback where it takes a moment to do what it needs to do. If it gets in range, it's punching a hole in something.
That's 16,000 health.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. But Sol Invictus has 650,000? I don't actually know which is which.
Oh no, we do have a Sol Invictus APM stall on the bottom of the map, and they are being taken out by these bastions.
Oh no. Gotta be putting these on move commands. Get into that eco, boyos. There we go, they're back up and moving. There are still 6 left. There's still a couple of Titans. There's still a Kagi. But these are exploding and dealing a lot of self-damage. And these Bastions dealing plenty of damage to these units as they march in. But does look like there's going to be enough to break through all of this. Particularly if that conversion behind and those fusions pop. That's going to be a pretty big deal. There we go. Just keep walking down. They are on a move command up that potentially up that ramp or into the side of the cliff. Are they tall enough to shoot down?
Just keep swimming.
Just keep moving. But one of the things that is also happening is just above we have purple Sol Invictuses and Juggernauts and Spam and Shivas that are starting to absolutely push their way down and through. They're heading towards the eco centers right here. This is going to be super hard to defend. Just quickly jumping back to the Sol Invictus in the bottom left as they take out that first Aphis bunch. They are going to have to fight a Behemoth though, and Behemoth's ludicrously good at killing big units. That giant attack does huge damage. Leave them to their fate over there as we watch Sol Invictus on Sol Invictus action up here. The Juggernaut just deciding to run his way in, aiming for the build power. It does manage to get it. I believe that might have been with a missile or with some spam. And it does get the objective of taking out a lot of that conversion. This one Behemoth taking out most of these units over here. A second one, it does look like this corner is going to defend each shot out of that massive turret.
We got vision. We got vision.
Uh-oh. Oh no. Oh no.
Go for the build power.
Oh.
Almost all of it.
Oh, the density. The density of that spot.
If you get an opportunity, leave at least a gap in a lot of things.
Yeah, quickly reclaiming those edge AFIS might have saved. Oh,
Look,
that
I
was
think
great.
when you're in that sort of position, and if an enemy gets up to you in that corner, your corner was probably going to fall anyway. So I don't mind the mass chain reaction. I also loved to watch it.
Do have another eco forming in the bottom right hand corner there with a bunch of construction bots that have built themselves into a big field of converters. We will see.
I don't think we've ever seen the peasants take this much of the center without winning yet.
That is very
This has
true.
been
I think
chaos.
these donated Sol Invictus, the Sol Invictus airdrop is the only thing keeping the Kings in the game at this point. But they did play very valiantly, and it was just one big push that swept the game around. It was looking like Kings at the advantage, but now it is looking like the Kings are going to potentially bow out. Don't think we'll get quite the full team surrender, but shouldn't be too far off of that, as this APHIS center is going to start taking some real damage soon.
Very
And there we
nicely
go,
done by the red
focused.
player. It was not so much about strategy at the end of that match for the Kings and more about therapy with everything they just had to go through. A very long one there, 44 minutes, really nicely done by the Kings. I thought they had it. But
So
then, yeah,
did
that
I.
one lane falling, and that's all it takes. Those Pilums getting through and making that chain reaction pop. It's very hard to coordinate as Kings, but you do want to try and separate those ecos out so that if you do get a chain reaction, it is only limited to like your little quadrant. Anywho, let's check out these graphs and stats.
Yes, red getting that Sol Invictus drop just after the 33-minute mark, and you can see the giant amount of damage done by those units. Phenomenally good unit. But beyond that, we see a lot of very high damage done by the Kings, the orange player and the cream player in particular, along with the red and the pink, doing very well with that strategy in that top right hand side, utilizing the spam and the Razorbacks to great effect. And then you can see when the peasants came online, in particularly the light blue player who managed to punch through and do all that eco damage. That is this big section over here as the damage graph goes up and up and up, though a lot of that isn't actually shown. The chain reaction damage doesn't show up on the person's damage dealt graph.
All right, back to the lobby, boys, and we'll get ready for the next one.
Yes.
For those that'll watch this in the replay section of the YouTube, thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to AllReasonNoLogic, and yeah, jump on in on these games when you're available.
Yes.
Okay.
Can we get some new Kings potentially, if anyone is interested?
Do you have a big join queue there? Let's start moving those existing Kings out while we can recognize those names. If you have been King, please move yourself to Team 1.
If there are no Kings that volunteer, you are more than welcome to step back down in a minute or two.
Had quite a bit of conversation in our Discord channel this evening as well, just looking through some of this stuff.
I do enjoy after these, I go to bed way too late knowing that I have to get up in 5 hours, but I can't help but read through all the banter that's been going on in the background while we've been casting these. It's a good read.
Yes.
Jump in on the Discord as well, people. There is that thread that I'm talking about, but also more so, the Peasants and Kings have a team chat that you can jump into so you can talk with your players if you so wish. Javi asking in the comments, are we going for a new map? It doesn't really work with many maps with this amount of players, sorry. We find that this is probably the only one that won't scare off half the lobby, because we do get some really good battles going into any other maps. There's usually not enough medal points available for 40 plus players.
Just to answer a couple of the questions in chat, what happens if rules are broken? Depends. If you severely break rules, you will be kicked. But usually the mods just take away the units that break the rules, and then and we let you know that you've broken a rule. Then we try to save any sort of harshness for people that just refuse to play the game as intended. Glad you're enjoying that. It's cinematic. I'm doing my best to cast it, but there is also a lot going on, so there is a lot of movement required. Yeah, that behemoth really did go John Wick. Behemoths are, if you can get them into position, behemoths are so good at taking out big units. They just deal so much damage to them, and they take so little damage from those other big units. Hope that you guys did enjoy it. Yes, it is worth all the technical difficulties. We do this weekly, and this is easily my favorite thing to do in Bar. It has all of the thrills of PvP, but none of the stress because the teams are so differently balanced. It allows for very interesting games, and just very, very happy to be doing it this way. Just gonna add some
Someone
bonuses.
suggested 1 versus everyone. We have done that before. You might have seen in our X Factor Live versus everyone video. He did quite well taking out quarter of the map, but then being overrun, even though getting over 100 APM couldn't stop all the pushes that were happening from the peasants as they came online.
Yes.
We might try that again in the future. Maybe AllReasonNoLogic will jump down there.
Good a SKEE. Glad you managed to catch the stream just in time. Yes, I am looking at the YouTube and the Twitch chat where possible. I think Twig did mention this before, if you are part of the Peasants team or part of the Kings team, do feel free to jump into the AllReasonNoLogic Discord. There is a Kings chat, there is a Peasants chat, and it is very helpful for coordinating, particularly once one side is in trouble. Lets you know what is going on.
Okay, I'm thinking we are at 40 verse 8. Maybe we bump this one up for a few percentage for this. There's a
50?
4 3 chefs. 4 3 chefs in there. Let's do a 50 for the Kings.
Do a
Start at the top.
50.
I'll start at the bottom.
Yeah.
Everyone can
And
hate
Twig
me if
will
I've got
not
this
do
wrong, and they just yeah, I won't touch anything because people will accidentally be kicked. We do have quite the join. We do have quite the join queue, people. So if you are listening in and you're in this current game, for the next one, we asked you to quickly leave at the end of the game and then rejoin that queue. So you're the first back in the next game after that. Probably got time for 2 more after this one if we're lucky. We will just keep an eye on that Alpha Cup tournament that will be coming up shortly.
All right, looks like we have all 8 players. They all have a plus 50 bonus. Oh, somebody has dropped out, so we'll just add 1 more bonus in. Make sure there isn't a
84
bonus
people
in
in here with us at the moment.
What's that, sorry?
84 people in the lobby at the moment.
And we appreciate each and every one. Unfortunately, someone has asked about air. Air is a disaster in this game mode because the Kings either have to invest too much in defending it in that first 10 minutes and cannot win the game, or they don't and all of their eco goes boom because it is just all too close together. However, if you are looking to put the Kings on the back foot, aggression. Lots and lots of aggression. We have seen that you can get 40 to 50 blitzes. We have seen you can get 40 to 50 incisors by that 10-minute mark. And if enough players do that, it will be absolutely overwhelming. There are 40 of you. If all 40 of you decide to do it, then that means there will be 2,000 of those tanks rolling in at the 10-minute mark. Please, one day I would love to see that. The reclaim
normally
hack,
most places.
If the reclaim hack, if you don't know what it is, don't worry about it. It just has to do with the bonuses, and the Kings can exploit it for infinite metal. We do keep an eye on it, and if it does happen, we will be quite harsh on that one, because it's a pretty big thing that can change the game.
As long as you stick to fairly typical build orders,
You'll be
there's no
just
issues.
fine.
But when you start, yeah.
So nothing to worry about there. All right, let's kick this one off.
We got all this sorted with player IDs. Big thank you to those in there helping rename those.
Yes. Absolutely phenomenal community that has sprung up around this game mode. Hopefully, one day we'll be able to get a map which makes a lot of the rules not easy to break. Why only 8 versus 40? There are only so many positions on the map, and there is only so much that if you throw way too many players at the peasant side, you end up in a position where the peasants just have such an economy from the comms out of the gate that it is impossible to overcome. Similarly, if you throw too many kings in the middle, the kings are actually weaker because they do not have the economic base to start up unless they all play as co-op. And even then, it can be a little bit tricky when you're not on comms. We've found the 8-person start in this map is quite good. We also do other maps when the lobby is a little bit smaller. And that we do play on Throne, where there are 4 or 3 kings, depending on how much of a challenge they want to take on. And we do one in Claymore, which is a bit of a different style. There are 5 individual triangles. It is 5 1v2s, and when you win or lose your 1v2, you can then expand out and try to help your friends. Though if you've lost, you probably can't expand out to help your friends because you died. But that one is only suitable for 15 players, and Throne is only suitable for up to around about 25-ish, isn't it?
Do us a favour and jump in and help look for these IDs while
Yes.
Praetor's chit-chatting.
Let's get on down and do that. So /! gives you a lot of the IDs. It does look like we have got some duplications. Let's see if we can find them.
That's another reason why we don't make this any bigger, because we have this issue. We have to count through 48 players.
Yeah, part of it is that the servers only have so much horsepower.
Yes.
And we are using a lot of it.
Yes.
There's
2 16s, so we need to move MIKOMIKO to
That's
something
rough.
in the 70s.
Okay.
There we go. And I think that was the last one. There we go.
That was it. Good spot. Trust the actual host who's doing absolutely everything tonight and find the number. Good job.
I have spent a lot of my life dealing with Excel spreadsheets. If I could make a map by using Excel, we already would have a King of the Hills map. No questions asked. That is not the way. That is not the way. Yes, in chat, Alpha Cup hype. We are looking forward to that one. I won't be watching live because after many hours of this, it will be very late at night down under. But looking forward to catching the replays on that one. I've been trying to pick up some tips and tricks. Something which I really want to learn from the pros is how to be better in the first 2 minutes of a game. I found myself stalling a lot because I've been playing too much King of the Hill. Not so good, and not so good for the Road to 25 series on our channel. I have managed to scrape out a few wins recently, but I've also done a lot of sloppy play in those first 5 minutes, which I really do need some help on. Any coaches out there, hit me up.
Quite a fun series. Check it out. Just for those lower ranked players that are looking to come up through the game. I do remember when I was starting, I got down to 7 OS and just jumped on YouTube and watched how certain players played. getting distracted. A lot of players starting in the middle really tight. I wonder if we're going to see some co-op eco in this middle again.
Yes. Just while we think of it,
Yeah.
do you mind just posting those rules in the chat again, just so that they are very visible in the game?
Yeah, we'll do. We'll do. Can never do that enough. I've been
Yes.
spamming. Stay off the ramps all night.
Yes, that is a really big one. If you don't follow any of the other rules, it's still a problem, but it's easier to deal with. Stay completely off of the ramps until 10 minutes. More than welcome to do whatever you want on the ramps after 10 minutes. Just stay off the ramps after 10 minutes. Before 10 minutes. Basically, the point that you should not be on those ramps is if your units can walk down the corners, it's still okay to be that deep. But if they can't, you can't be that deep. That is the limit. Looks like we've got a vote passed to start this one. Looking in the middle, a lot of kings starting very, very close to that center. I actually prefer the starting position of the yellow king. That yellow king is very, very close to 2 mechs, and it does mean that they do not have to walk anywhere near as far to get them. It also means that there is less confusion with where people should be going. I hope there's some pretty interesting tactics going on here, because we're leaving what looks to be an entire lane potentially open, or we're going to see some very interesting mech spots. We did see some absolutely great co-op last time, so maybe that is what's going on. After seeing that, they want a bit of a repeat. Tank Tom, you're in here. You haven't said much. Why don't you give us a rundown of the rules? I'm going to throw you in the deep end, and then I want you to give us a rundown of what you're expecting from the different player positions, from the kings, the corners, and the front line. Players, give my voice a slight rest. The camera's not going to move for the next 30 seconds or so, because I'm going to grab myself a really quick drink.
So for the King of the Hill, the main rule that we've got is no rush for 10 minutes. The peasants stay around the outside. The kings have got all of the space within the middle that they're allowed to take. And then after 10 minutes, it's basically game on. Ideally, both teams will eco as hard as they can for the first 8 minutes or so. Then you want to make sure that you've got an army and defenses up and ready, because if you don't, then whatever's coming through has a fantastic job of making it all the way in. And if you don't have things ready, it doesn't take long for things to fall. With this map, one of our community members, Chronographer, has done a great job of flattening it out for us. So we've got relatively shallow ramps. Vehicles can move up them without any major slowdowns, but you've only got those ramps as the entry points to the top of the hill. And based off the round or two that we've done this evening, it's a much more even fight compared to having the typical ramps on this map, which are rather aggressive and give a huge bonus to whoever's fighting down the hill. Yeah, I can see that just some of the comments from the chat. It's not a free-for-all, so all of the players that are outside this outer ring here are all on one team, and their goal is to get into the middle. The players in the middle have a 50% bonus just based on how many players we've got around the outside. As we've done these, we've tweaked them slightly just based on averages to try and have it be a relatively even fight, where it's somewhat 50-50 for both sides. And the players in the middle get that bonus, so then they can build up the bigger ecos and have the armies ready to be able to hold off the horde at that 10-minute mark. So it's typical that the peasants will have a larger eco, but because it's distributed across all of the players rather than in a few key powerhouses, it's generally easier for the kings to punch on out. But with so many peasants, they can lose a couple of players before it becomes critical. And when you've got the support of the players behind you, it's not uncommon that even if you do fall, there's the opportunity to reset and come back into it.
It's interesting you said hold at 10 minutes. What's been probably more visible in the last couple of weeks of King of the Hill is at that 10-minute mark. It's usually the kings that are doing most of that aggression, which personally it doesn't make sense to me. There are, in this case, 40 peasants around the outside, and as we've experienced before, if you get a ton of T1 units at that 10-minute mark, peasants, you will win. If you
As we
push in
saw in the
with,
last game, if the kings don't get a chance to push out, you can't leave the peasants alone for too long because they will just keep on building up that eco, and sooner or later they're going to come charging through with the T3 army.
Yes, just a couple of things. Some units did try to walk their way down the ramp, or sorry, up the ramp. They were smited. Make sure to stay off those ramps, everybody. Another one that I just really want to quickly point out, with all of these comms in the bottom right-hand side, we did get a T2 lab out before the 3-minute mark, and it has been distributing T2s around the area. This is going to be one scary corner with so many comms, build power, working on getting units out for everyone. And I do like the team focus. Getting that metal out to everyone is really important. The other T2 labs coming up in the other corners as well, just not quite as fast as that one. Looking in the middle.
Once you can have those T2 mexes up, it makes a huge difference for those frontline players, because once you've got a couple of T2 mexes, you can run your spam lines or your, expand into a T2 army. Whereas without those, it gets real thin at the front.
Yes, it does. Trying to defend one of those ramps, if your eco player hasn't helped you get to T2, is a near impossible task. If a king brings its full might down on you to bear, you really do have to work together as this one. The way that I like to think about it is that the peasants combine into 8 effective players, 4 ecos, 1 in each corner, and 4 mid to early game defenses, which are the 4 quarters close to the middle. Got to make sure that you do your absolute best to keep your ecos alive, and to make sure the kings don't break into it. Because if the kings get a very early break into one of these top corners, they can move themselves out onto these outer edges and reclaim a huge amount of metal, which they then get a 45% bonus on. They can also take over all of those mexes and start sieging, not just from the middle, but from around the sides, adding to the number of fronts the peasants have to deal with. Just some quick notes that I didn't hear whether you added them because I was grabbing that drink. Legion and extra units are on for this one, which is a little different, but it did work quite well last time. We got to see some of the big new stompy units. And we're seeing some of these T2 wind turbines too, which is an interesting tech path, and I do quite like seeing people getting into and using these alternative methods. The T2 winds cost 370 metal, and they can produce, I think it is 10 times the current wind value, which means that when it's peaking, they're producing 200, so you only need 5 of them to be the equivalent of a fusion. So they potentially can be half the cost of a fusion, and on average, they will meter out to be very similar, but you get the power in stages, which is very, very nice.
Whereabouts are those in the game? I haven't seen them.
Bottom right.
Bottom right.
Ah, very nice.
Yes.
I'm hearing shots. That's not a great sign.
No, that means somebody has built things that they should not have built.
There was a case of Dick going up the hill. Stay off the ramps, people. There's the poster again in the middle of the screen.
But, if only a very small fraction of players break that rule, then we are well ahead of the average game. This is a fraction too low, fraction too high, but I'm not going to ping that one. It is within the margin of error.
While we wait for that 10-minute mark to hit, the Kings have been sitting there rehydrating, reconsidering their life choices of these first 10 minutes. What they're going to do is get probably a bunch of units to start coming out in about 20 to 30 seconds and hopefully push down 1 or 2 spots, breaking the peasants' lines. as they're doing that, they need to continue to expand that eco, because as you can see at the top right of your screen, the peasants eco is definitely ahead thanks to the sheer number of them around the map. Scaling is the key for the kings, getting to the T3 level first and then taking advantage of that, and then getting to the scale of T3 plus spam and then beyond. All reason.
A player that lost the ticks, not quite understanding the concept, sending more units up to that high ground position. And those have been destroyed again. That's right, people will learn slowly. We just to note, we do have a couple of the wonderful devs devs and community managers in the lobby that are assisting with that. Thank you very much to you guys. Big thank you to Flo and Nightmare that are out there making all of this possible, doing all of the changes other than the inversion, which we want to thank Chrono for, to the maps, allowing us to do these bigger lobbies. We have hit the 10-minute mark right now, and we are off to the races. The ramps are now open, everyone is ready to go, but there is not much aggression to be had. Everyone has focused on their eco. In fact, everyone has focused on their eco, and there are no attacks inbound.
Interestingly, there's a few very undefended sections where if you happen to be pushing through, there'd be minimal resistance.
Yes, we do have some...
The map is totally open, but no one really aggressing at all. This is the biggest stagnant 10-minute mark that we've seen. A few blitzes coming through on the north. They are not going to get very far past those. What are those called?
Dragon Jaws and...
Cacophonies.
Cacophonies. There you go. Thank you for English, because I could not.
Pronouncing.
We do have some...
That's bad.
We do have some spam units making their way through these walls, not completely defended.
Correct choice there to run them straight on in.
Yes, good choice. See what damage you can get done. There are still a couple of units up here to help clean it up, but it does look like they will be slowed down by ramming into its defensive units. Can't get the shots off. Wow, that was a tough look. And this one unit is going... Oh. 10%.
So close to getting the collateral as well.
And that would have taken out the build power. It would have taken out the wind as well, because it is all stacked together. That would have been quite the devastation.
Who do you think has the bigger advantage from inaction at the start of these games? So just allowing those ecos to scale.
I think it's the peasants.
I think it's the opposite. I think it's the kings. If the kings know that they can stay alive till the 12-minute mark, then they can go straight into APHIS instead of anything else. You could get and if you have an APHIS, you can create ludicrous amounts of units and continue scaling APHIS at the same time. If you let the kings, if I saw this state of play right now, I would be cancelling all of my unit production and whacking down APHIS build power and trying to see just how far I could get this. Because that plus 45% it's plus 45% energy, which means that you're getting, instead of getting 3,000 out of an APHIS, you're getting closer to 4,500. That means that you can build, instead of building four converters, you build 6. Each one of those is giving you 14.5 instead of 10, which means that you are on a ridiculous 60-ish you're on a ridiculous 60-ish metal out of a single APHIS. That is just so sorry not 60. You're on a ridiculous 90-ish metal out of an APHIS.
Let's keep an eye on the economy. It's at around the 80% advantage for the peasants. We'll check back in there shortly.
Yes. Do have an attack in the top right coming in towards the kings. A couple of Sheldons doing as much damage as they can, but a large amount of grunts heading in. They are going to miss the units at the moment though, because they are heading to block the ramp instead of take on the units. A couple heading through and dying to the brutes, but a few will make it in. I'm just noticing a lot of these mexes are still actually T1, which is definitely not going to help economy wise. This one hero grunt
Check out the grunts on the bottom of the
bottom
screen.
side.
We have a lot, 63 grunts that are going to definitely they're being microed
Great to
properly.
see
They're
them
being
being
spread
spread.
out. We're going to see at least some eco down. I think this army will find its middle value quite nicely.
The napalm
it
doing a
will.
lot of work though. Napalm doing a ridiculous amount of work.
We will
But-
see
Yeah.
chain reaction if one of these pop. Yep, there they
There
go.
we go. A couple of those going down. Might not manage to get this.
Look at these converters. They'll just go pop. Build power, then converters.
Oof. Unfortunately, that attack should have done way more than it actually did. I am quite surprised. I was expecting all of that eco to go down, but it did not. And now we do have, while this has been going on, the top side has started sending the spam through. It has broken through, but it doesn't look like it's going to get a lot of damage done, and it's just some extra metal right now for the players at the top. Another set trying to break through down here. We do have a couple of Decurions. These units, when they rank up, become absolutely insane. A high-ranking Decurion is going to absolutely destroy spam like you couldn't believe. Looking up at the
can see
top
some of
left, a second big attack is coming at this fortified position. These Cacophonies and the Dragon Jaws doing a good job at taking out a lot of that T1, but there is now the Welders and Snipers that are pushing through. That defense has now fallen. Some Sheldons coming in from the side to dish damage, but with only a handful of Sheldons, that is a lot of Welders to punch through. If the player is playing smart, they'll take out the units that are walking towards them.
Sheldons being walked straight into
Yes.
welders is not a good time for the Sheldons. Same with the
No.
Deceiver and the
Yes,
radar.
go.
Would love to see that
Go.
wind farm going down.
Go, go, go. Get in there. Get in there.
Some more build. We have a short
Oh,
out.
that's
Just
gonna be
explaining
up.
how to
Come on,
avoid
come on,
what's
come
about to happen.
These units, like these wind farm, like the Legion wind farms, are just not detonating. I think the T2. Oh, it's the T2 construction turrets. They're so powerful that they're getting tons of healing on and preventing all of them from going down. It's interesting just how much more effective those T2s are at preventing those chain reactions than the T1 turrets are. It does look
Sniper
like
backing
the
up, knowing
pink
that
side,
it's
though,
been
is now the
defeat.
one in trouble. They do have a Inferno here to defend, but it's going up against Snipers, Fat Boys, and Spam, and it doesn't look like there is a lot to come in
down.
on the right to defend.
We need to keep this attack going here on the right hand side, and I don't see enough that's going to get here quick enough. Those
No,
two
there's-
Cacophonies are going to maybe deal with the spam, but the Snipers will take them out shortly. Fat Boy is going
Very
to
little
damage as
response
well.
from the Kings coming out.
Yes, got to be pinging this below. Would I be wrong in saying that a player has left? Yes, a king has left. Well, the second highest, the second spot king in the list has left, and now the pink player is having to move over to this side to try to take on the responsibilities that they have left behind. Unfortunate that that has happened.
Ooh, a ghost in the middle of the map that has been damaged but not been killed. So, what is the Oh,
No.
been seen now.
Oh.
Bang.
Yeah.
That's
That was
unfortunate.
close.
There
So
are no
ghosts have
nukes, by
recently
the way.
been updated for those wondering. Post update, they were changed to have an 8-second stun, I believe. Now it is still 8-second on units, but it's back to the 20 seconds on structures, which I love because I love seeing a ghost or a spectre getting into the back lines, taking out a anti-nuke, and then that dreadful nuke raining down on a base, undoing everything you've done for the last 15 minutes.
That
Yes.
Fat Boy's getting a lot of work done on that
Oh.
big ball of spam from Pink.
Oh, that was, it does go down finally, but we did catch one of those shots. But while this has been happening, Sheldon's managing to self-damage a large chunk of their build power as Ticks or other spam units ran past into that base area. It does look like the Kings are in a bit of trouble in this one. Some big pushes going down the hills, but it does look like everything that is here, everything that's needed to defend is here. These Fat Boys dishing the damage, the LLTs and the Pitbulls cleaning things up. Some have managed to get past, but they need to be microed correctly and into the... They have to get into the build power, but they did not. Great D-guns out of Spice Rub.
Looking back in on that eco, I've been watching it. It hasn't changed that much. We are still around that 80%. So both teams scaling relatively evenly, even with that bonus. So that just means the Kings obviously aren't building quite as much, but their eco with an extra 50% bonus.
Yes.
Usually 45% in our King of the Hill games, but few lower chevron players, so we decided to up that by 5%, especially because the Kings have not won one on this map yet tonight. They did win on Claymore, the first game of the night. Unfortunately, this map, the only one able to facilitate so many players. Bunch of grunts running through, but cleaning up by more grunts on the top right of the map there.
Yes. Cynthia Uwu
Nice.
is...
Ooh, bottom side.
Yes.
Whoa, there's
Marauders coming up the ramp. I wonder if these are going to get through on the bottom right hand side of the map.
yes, they are.
They are fast.
And they're
they
gonna
are
make it
weak,
in.
but they are strong at the same time. There is big farmer build power that we should be able to see detonated if we just go straight in. What is
Just
the
having a
vision for
look
this
at the
player?
player view. They do know that
You can
it's
see the
there.
Aphis.
They can see the Aphis, they do know where they're going. And
That was the
Arbiters,
use
whilst
for
they
the-
are a good unit, they're not so good against such fast movers,
no.
chain reaction of the
Oh
wind.
no.
And this is going to be a big problem. The conversion going down. The unit's actually getting eaten quite quickly by these T2. These T2 constructors are actually quite hard to push down. I would just take this section over here and kill the Aphis,
And
kill
that
the
looks
build
to be exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. Get what you get done, what you can.
Oh no. Just ram him in there.
Indecision. Indecision.
Pop the build power. Just keep moving. Split
No,
the
keep
units.
moving,
Oh, no.
keep
4
moving.
in
Oh,
one D-gun.
great D-gun.
Great D-gun there, but you've got to keep those units
wow.
moving. The power of the early T3 from Cortex is its speed. You have to use it, and if you don't, then
Armada.
something like that. Sorry, Armada. Then something like that will happen. Kings so far really struggling to get out of the circle. We haven't really had any overly successful attacks from the Kings at this point. Just
This right hand
doing
side's
their
still
best
looking
to
very
hold
weak.
on.
Ticks coming through in mass. I think they should be cleaned. Oh, maybe not. We don't have any welders there. We do have these I cannot pronounce that word. Call them something else.
Cacophonies. A good old
Some
cacophony.
rolling goals coming through.
Oh, can we get... Yes. Power of the tick. A bunch of conversion going down.
I think that
Look
that
at
was
that
the
chain reaction going
Arbiters,
through.
the Arbiters landing shots on the conversion where the
No,
tick
it was
was.
a demon.
Oh,
It was
or
the
yeah.
demon.
So unfortunately, the tick is mightier than the sword in this case. Manages to stand in the right position and die for a good cause.
Got
That
an
build
epic
power
run
shuts
down
down
on
that-
that bottom side.
Losing
Alright,
that build
the
power
eco is
shuts
starting to get away for the from the Kings as the corners are really amassing those Aphises. Every single corner, getting quite a few.
And this
up.
is often what happens if you don't manage to get out and kill some of the peasants in that first like 10 to 15 minutes. By the time they get to 20 or so, they can often start to match some of the Kings.
Yeah, the Kings not with much of a front line. Really isn't much front line. It's more of a polite suggestion to the enemy to stop advancing. Only a few
They're getting out on
demons
that
really
left-hand
holding these
side and
masses.
doing some damage.
I love the epic grunt. Just feels good.
Nah, I like the Pilum. The Pilum is a very nice unit.
Yeah, the star of last game.
Ooh, that's in the middle.
We do have a sanctuary up. Oh yeah. They
That
are
demon
through,
though,
they're not
cleaning
is-
it up. Nice.
Oh, if they'd kept on running them straight into the middle rather than giving them that second move command, they would have exited the demon
Fiends,
range.
boys. Fiends on the left. These get through. Actually, no, there are way too many Sheldons.
Yeah.
That
I'm looking at
is,
the Fiends on the
42
right.
Fiends. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. The green Fiends. If they go straight through the Arbiters will miss
They
them.
are
Hopefully the
in
best.
there.
No.
Too much
self-drive.
No, not
firepower
quite.
right there.
But the distraction has meant some ticks have gone further north. And we can maybe get to this build
Ooh,
power
there.
here. If they get microed, they are not being microed. That hurts.
If in doubt, give them the move command that runs them straight through the bases and out the other side.
Yes. And then throw a fight command backwards in the other direction. Only takes a moment, and it means that you'll get something interesting happen at the minimum.
Things stopping the scaling of eco, from what I can see. The light pink player is the only one that has currently got a build queue out of their T2 constructor. Everyone else focusing on, actually sorry, both pinks, focusing on units, which is very much needed with the state of the game right now. Have any peasants fallen at all? We do have some of these pillars on the
There's
left hand side taking up the
Some
first one,
damage
I
that's
think.
been done on the left.
Yeah, fusion's going down. Build power is what you want to aim for. You really want to aim for that build power and the converters first because they fall so quickly and chain react.
Red
They're crazy.
looks to be in trouble here.
Yes, there is a pilum push that is heading straight into the red base conversion right around the labs, as well as right near the build power, and the APHIS does allow for a big chunk of damage, means that the T2 turret healing not quite enough this time. Going for the APHIS does look like they're going to get the pop that chains reacts into the brown player and slightly into the pink player. That opens up an entire lane into the map, and the rest of the pilums are heading in deeper and deeper, but there are some demons there to defend, and a nice amount of Sheldons trying to come in to close the gap.
Looking back at the pillars on the left hand side, we have some commanders that are AFK'd at the moment, so we might see one go down, pop, and they're continuing through, but there is an epic pulsar up which is taking these out in about one shot, I reckon. A massive reload.
Looks
on that
like
thing.
they're gonna make it into that back corner though.
Pilum versus
Yeah,
epic grunts.
Epic Grunts are going to do a decent amount right here. They are... Actually, it does take quite a while
Pretty
for the
epic.
Epic Grunt to kill one, but yes, doesn't look like they're going to get quite through. We do have mass spam coming in, trying to break through this area now that its defenses have been blown up by APHIS, but Razorbacks standing strong, and these cacophonies over here with 100 combined kills doing some nice work. Green, though, is now pushing in force. They do have snipers with welders in front of them, as well as a spam line. These guys, if they can be positioned right, should be able to punch in nicely. That is enough
Razorbacks
snipers.
are going to get this APHIS. I don't see anything stopping these two Razorbacks in time. This eco is holding together with duct tape right now, and I'm not sure that there's that much duct tape on it.
This shows that power of having some spam running through.
There it goes.
That is
In the
game.
final breaths of those Razorbacks, absolutely destroyed. And that is bringing the Kings down under 1,000 income when they're not reclaiming, which is going to be a big problem when you consider that the peasants are sitting well and truly at the 4,500 mark. Kings have held admirably, but unfortunately they weren't able to get out and destroy the peasants while they are weak, and they didn't take the opportunity to scale to an absolutely insane degree when they were left to their own devices. We do have some good pushes happening down in on this left side, but I think this might be a little bit too late with just a couple of epic grunts, and well, now down to one epic grunt left, getting taken out by pulsars. Epic pulsar, nope, just regular pulsar. Pilums trying to make their way up the hills, but unfortunately there is plenty of defenses here, as well as pilums of the peasants coming out to block this as well. Don't think they'll be pushing through there anytime soon, as the Green Army, the welders and the snipers that I mentioned before, are now cutting their way into the very center of the map and heading towards some of the last eco centers available.
On those early predictions, it does look like that the peasants got the advantage over that inaction at the 10-minute mark.
It
You
all
got to remember, as Kings, like it's a race. It's kind of like any game of bar. If you are the first to the next level of technology or the tactic of maybe a mass amount of certain type of unit, be the first to use it, and then you're the most likely to win. Did we just see a self-D or a
I
know
do
we've got
believe
some
some units
scuttles.
got in.
Scuffles, the name of the
Yeah.
game.
Yes,
If you're not actively killing someone, they're going to be getting stronger.
Yes, if it does go past that 10 minutes, and you as the kings have built units and aren't aggressive with them, you're going to have a problem, because you have to scale the eco harder than the peasants can scale their eco if both sides are not being aggressive. Doing a middle ground approach just does not work, and that's why we recommend aggression. If the kings can push out in 8 points very strongly at the 10-minute mark, that is absolutely going to cripple all of the peasants except for maybe the 4 corners, and then you get a very long reprieve where you can consolidate yourself and go for the win.
Since you're doing everything, obviously having to cover a couple lanes there more than you usually would as a king, doing very well, but yeah, that inaction I think from the kings maybe lost that form. Definitely a few lower chevs on the king side, which we definitely do also encourage. Getting in there and testing out your APM, you're only going to get better the more you play this game and test out your skills. It was a fun one, but a good win for the peasants. Very strong from all avenues.
Indeed, looking at that damage dealt, you can see just how well Pink did. If you had a couple of players on the team dealing that much damage, I suspect the things would have switched around. You do bear in mind that they did have 2 lots of eco, but only for a short amount of time. Most of it was taken out when they took it over. One of the things to really note is that one of the light blue teal sort of colored players absolutely slamming that damage along with the darkish purple. Massive work out of those 2 peasants in breaking in and doing a very, very good job. Quick look at the metal produced. Absolutely smashed it from a couple of kings, but a couple of the peasants running only just below the line of the top 5 kings. Phenomenal work right there. Let's jump on out of this one and set up the next one.
I've got time for one more. What about you guys? You got 1 or 2?
I got the one, I believe.
Yeah, just the one for me.
All right, we better call it
Yeah.
to everyone that this is going to be the last one. Did that just crash?
It did just crash.
Oh. Almost feels like a sign. We will try and get one more in though, because we do know that some people were waiting in that queue.
Yes, good opportunity to bounce back in. With it, if you haven't had a chance to play tonight, just keep an eye out for that lobby to open back up. Should be a nice shuffle of the players.
Nightmare just setting up a lobby for us, obviously in the background, making sure it's set up correctly so that we don't crash again. So we'll just give him a bit. Once again, for everyone watching, we do have the Alpha Cup Day 2 coming up on this same channel, on the official Beyond All Region Twitch and YouTube. Make sure you go have a snack, sit around for about an hour after our stream, and then the likes of, I think, I should probably check who's hosting this one tonight before I announce who's hosting it. I'll just say some of the best streamers in the game will be hosting this one again today, same as yesterday. They did a great job, kept it exciting for everyone for about 7.5 hours, I think it was. Big day for casters rotating through the games. A lot of action, a lot of really great games. And we are going to see the best of the best fight it out for Season 5 Alpha Cup title coming up next. So yeah, stick around. What is happening? What is happening? I think it's crashed again. Nightmare's back out.
Yes, does look like there's a little bit of lobby trouble, but this is to be expected when we are tripling the effective capacity of a lobby, and then on top of that throwing in another large group of spectators. Just remember, lobbies are usually 16 people, and if you include the spectators, we are throwing 80 at the problem at some points tonight.
Yeah. Just having a quick look at some of the other lobbies that are open at the moment. Most of them have got 20 players or less in them.
And the fact that it can handle this is quite impressive. Just wanted to give a big shout out to everyone who is watching right now. We've got 46 viewers on YouTube and 140 on Twitch. So we're sitting up at a 186 plus whoever is watching on the AllReasonNoLogic side of things. So a nice big community out here. Good day, retired down what? Thanks for joining us, and let's check out what is going on in Twitch. We've had some subs that are being given away. Congratulations to Jiffy, Jite, Colo. I'm going to stop reading out names because I'm going to butcher them, but congratulations to everyone who did manage to get a sub from an anonymous gifter, and a big thanks to that anonymous gifter. Thank you very, very much. Next time I do have to grab a drink, I will lock the camera on to someone. That's a really good idea. King of the Pit, we like to call it King of the Hole if they're in the hole. However, we did invert Raptor Crater, so they were sitting nicely on top. Looks like the lobby is back up, and I'm going to jump into that. Nope, it's locked. I'm not going to jump into that one. Let's keep looking down. No way the inner team wins. That time, you are correct. They did not win this one, but we have seen plenty of wins out of the Kings. It does come down to how much damage they can do to the peasants early on, or if they eco hard enough that they can take on the peasants even as they all scale. Should have Twitch predictions running. I don't know what that is, but I will find out and see if we can. But this is the official Beyond All Reason channel, so we don't have full control. They're just gracious enough to let us stream to them. Not enough iOS in the Kings, unfortunately, so that time, but they did do a very good job. Can barely hear the casters. Alright, we'll try to adjust the volume a little bit. I know that it does differ between Twitch and YouTube. We're definitely a slight bit louder on YouTube. Love the extra units.
I do think when the battles get quite loud, it is covering our voices a little bit. We'll do a little bit better to get closer to our microphones when those shots are being fired. Okay, let's see if we can get a bit of a closer game then. If that one was 2 in the favour of the peasants, you are right. No Kings to win yet. I will note with a lot of people here, we are approaching that 1,000 sub mark on our channel. I am thinking when we do get to the 1,000, we'll do a little bit of a celebration and host one of these on the opposite side of the world's preferred time. So 12 hours apart from where we usually host that. It'll be a Sunday morning our time, I think, Saturday night European time, and mid-Saturday for the American time.
Yes, I would love to see some special maps for the larger styles. I would love to see something very similar to Raptor Crater, just with the ability for us to block off an entire area with lava for the first 10 minutes and then let it free. Give that extra little bit of space. Also, just space it out just enough that the artillery buildings cannot possibly hit the eco of the Kings during that first 10 minutes. Yes, free giveaway bar. There's a free bar giveaway at the moment. Everyone who wants to play the game, so I suspect, considering a lot of you are here in chat watching it, that you already are playing the game, just head on to the website, grab it for free. Phenomenal game. We wouldn't be doing this if we didn't like the game as much as we do.
Do you want me to jump on in there with you this time around, Twig?
I reckon we'd like to see Tank Tom and Twig in the middle. What do you guys say? Oh, chat's giving lots of yeses for that, so let's do it. There we go. We've got bonuses set up. Thanks for doing that, Tank Tom. And it does look like there are a few less Kings around the outside. We did lose some of the players with the lobby transitioning over, but that is always to be expected. Fingers crossed that plenty of them come back.
All right, let's ready up and get this one under the way for the final game of our night. Tom, you better freaking win this for us. I want another golden cow out of you tonight.
I don't think it's going to be quite as successful as the last one I was in.
We just had a 9th king jump down the bottom.
They
Yeah,
have
then back
jumped
up.
back up. We did have a king that jumped out, and then has jumped back in again. Just going to take the opportunity right now while the lobby is doing its thing to take just a quick moment to rest my voice as we head into that last game. It does take a toll talking for several hours straight. We're up to 3.5 right now, so just let Twig and Tank Tom fill in the gap for the moment.
Big thanks again to those getting involved, Nightmare and Flo, helping us get through these, sorting out the bugs, and I just love how they can delete units mid-game. Anyone that's breaking the rules, just suddenly, oh, where did my unit go?
Can I has
also
that
to
power?
Shadow for... I want it mid-game while I'm the king.
I want it mid-game so I
also
can
to
delete
Shadow
Twig.
for sorting out the streams for us when we're joining the bar stream. That's a big help as well, and we enjoy being here very much. Okay, human being, I hope you're there. Got some higher chevron kings here, maybe slightly lower average OS, so I'm going to use that as my excuse if we lose this one, but I'm going to give us the best shot I can.
No, you forgot, Twig. It's
Really-
because you're starting to learn grid keys.
Yeah, I'm learning.
You still
grid
got another
keys for
6 months on
next
that one.
year. Yeah. Please ready up, people. We're going to get this one under the way. Oh, it's a download, not ready. I reckon maybe we lock that team off now. Three seconds, big bag bear and smackables. Just getting those last couple players to ready up, and then we will finish the night, hopefully with the Kings win, because I am one. Same with Tank Tom. Okay, we're in, we're good to go. Paste the rolls. And Tom, why don't you drag yourself and myself out of the casting booth so that we can't hear all praise commentary, which would quite...
Sounds like I'm going to have to kick my microphone back on and get ready to go. Let's just let's transition this one over to the correct scene. Oops, not that one. Ignore that one. And now get going into this one. Oop, that is a game crash for me. Just hold up, everybody. I'm going to have to get myself back into game.
Beyond All Reason fans, welcome to King of the Hill by AllReasonNoLogic. Experience 2 or more teams facing off in epic scale warfare, where the Horde gang up on the Kings of the Hill. Kings start off with an economic bonus. They do their best to defend an onslaught after a no-rush timer expires. Test out your micro and defend against multiple players in variations of this game mode. Or be part of the masses. Team up with your allies to topple the throne in a glorious victory. AllReasonNoLogic, hosting King of the Hill lobbies, most Sundays. Join our Discord to be part of the action.
That's us back into game. Let's switch over to the correct view. And double check that the mics are all rolling, and let's get this one recording just in case it turns into an absolute banger. Alright. And yes, I did time the recording, so that was the first thing that was said. Don't judge me. Alright, just catching up temporarily. We're getting a lot of drawing on the map, and then we should be good to go. Let's have a quick look at the middle positions right here. It does look like we're having very standard starts. Would recommend starting close to your inner two mexes as compared to that furthest out one. Just a heads up for anyone. Does give you that tiny bit of an eco edge. Also, going into bots, good idea for reclaiming the crystals. So, got 180 odd viewers out here, and I'm sure a couple of you are new to what is going on. So let's give you a brief rundown of exactly what is happening. Right now, you're joining us for King of the Hill, where we stick 8 players in the middle of the map. We have inverted the map, so you can see that Raptor Crater would normally be a descent down into the hole, but it is no longer. We chuck these 8 players in, we give them a plus 45% bonus, we turn off air, we give them 10 minutes no rush, and then we see what happens. Can these 8 peasants with that eco bonus take on all of the peasants around the outside of the ring? Apologies for some very slight slips in my voice at the moment. We've been doing this for a little while. Looking around the outside, the sort of things we want to see are the players that are closest to the outside of the ring, making sure that they can hold and push in at that 10-minute mark. I do believe we've had a blue com spawn in the middle of the map. That shouldn't be there.
Battle paused.
There are some restrictions in how the game works. We cannot stop the peasants from being able to get into the middle of the map. We would love to use the no rush timer, but it does prevent the kings from going anywhere, but not the peasants. We do have a couple of admins that are helping us out, though, able to fix this up for us. And now it looks like the kings may have a... Oh no. It's very interesting. So just some weirdness that has happened. Not entirely sure what the go is for that one, but it does look like it will be fixed up. We might have to read the lobby. Looks like we're golden. Good to go. Alright. So the other things that are super important to this, air is off. It would be very, very hard to defend air if it was on, particularly with how limited time and resources are against all these opponents. And you cannot go up these ramps, you cannot build buildings that are used offensively. So, more than welcome to build a Juno, and Juno, if you're a peasant, you're more than welcome to Juno the top of the ramps to stop ticks from coming in, but do not Juno the king's side of the ramps, because that is just very, very limited space, so it makes it very hard to do anything if we allow for offensive buildings. The same goes for artillery. Build them far enough back that they're not going to affect the king's area. Likewise, the kings need to do the same for the peasants. So, who have we got in the middle today? We have Twig and Tank Tom of AllReasonNoLogic fame. They are helping out the kings and trying to secure the first win of the night for the kings. It is quite brutal with this many players around the outside, but I think that with the power of the players in the middle, we might have a chance. Looking around the outsides, what we expect to see is each of the corners working together to get that T2 lab down nice and early and distribute to the rest of the players. The amount of metal that does give is absolutely huge. Co-op Eco is the name of the game for these corner positions. Not seeing anything quite yet, but as it's only 2 minutes, I wouldn't expect to. The earliest lab I think we've ever seen was a 2-minute 30, and that game was crazy. Looking in the middle though, we have a lot of builders going out from these players. They're going to send builders down the line to collect all their mexes. They're going to be building wind, they're going to be building themselves conversion, and they're going to get themselves some storages in order to overcome some of the early issues that come from having to expand this quickly. You've got to get the right mix of build power, of metal, and of energy. We want to see out of the kings by the 10-minute mark around about 20 of an offensive unit, and at least one fusion, preferably 2, and a lab of some kind, as well as the build power to utilize the resources. I've noticed that there are some spots that are vacant. This is a slightly smaller game than we have had from a few of the other, compared to a few of the others tonight. Just a heads up, if you're listening, this will be the last one. Yes, there are peasants not listening as per usual. Just let me give a polite warning in chat and let the mods know. Sorry if I can't multitask. Yes, no, I completely shut down. I'm completely incapable, and it does look like we have a tick going in. Everyone. That is very frustrating, losing... Oh no, it doesn't quite lose the builder, which is good. If that builder did go down, very frustrating for the king, because these build orders are quite the delicate. We do have a lot of players that have played this before, and we are getting a lot of pings for people to move back. We do have some units there as well. Always a few who don't read the rules. It does happen but we do like the fact that most people try to respect them and try to make this game work. One of the things that is very notable about this game is that we are having to use an honor rule system because the engine is set up for classic 8 versus 8 play. It is not set up to do something like this. It is only with the help of the developers, of the admins, of the community managers that we have even a chance of doing it like this, and we very much so appreciate them stepping in and helping us. There's a couple of them here tonight, and we are very, very appreciative of Nightmare and Classic for making this happen and for hosting us on the Beyond All Reason official channel. So let's have a quick look around and see what is going on. We do have the T2 lab coming up for this side. It doesn't look like we're getting any co-op eco here. This is going to be quite rough for them. Having to invest in multiple 3,000 costing T2 labs is not ideal. Similarly, looking over here, we do have only the one between all of these players, which means we're going to get a nice amount of distribution. Elsewhere on top side of the map, similar story. We do have one T2 lab going down over here. We do have another one happening over here. So mixed distribution, frontline player getting some also. That'll make it quite hard to hold that front position at the 10 minutes if there is an attack there. A lot of comms moving around and working together through the map. I like to see it. Looking into the middle, Twig has already got his T2 lab up, as well as a nice amount of wind to power him through. Wind sitting at a nice average in the middle at the moment. One of the big problems that can happen in this map is the 2 to 20 swing. If there is too much time down at 2, then all of the players will suffer a lot, particularly in the middle. Just about everyone getting their T2 labs down or about to be down, and working to get that T2 eco going. You need those fusions, you need those T2 mexes if you're going to build up the armies. The sort of units we love to see early on are the Jags and some spam to get up to the top of the ramps and do some damage, or sorry, in this case, bottom of the ramps and do some damage. We also love seeing units like the Fiends, even the classic blobs of Sheldons or Hounds. They can do a lot of work, particularly early on from the peasants. One of the things that you can do is go into that T2, help get those metal extractors, go back to T1 and try and get yourself approximately 50 T1 tanks, whether those are blitzers or incisors. If every player did that, this would be a very short game. So whilst I'm both glad it doesn't happen, I also wish I could see it just once. Yes, exactly. Exactly. The other 90% of the players respecting the rules, you'll find that most players who don't respect the rules either didn't read them or they forgot. We have had people make mistakes. We haven't had anyone actually be malicious about it, which is just a absolute testament to the community that has been built around this game, and that's exactly why this whole thing is able to happen, is able to happen in the first place, because of you guys. And also, you know, the devs, we do really appreciate you making the game. Fusion's coming down over here. We do have a player that is being very greedy and going into an Aphis. They do have half the medal, and at plus 58 over 3 minutes, they should be well and truly ready to go, getting that extra bit of build power. I do love this risk. If this player can, if the yellow player can get this up and running by the 10-minute mark and get some units out, they are going to have a powerhouse of an economy. The T2 mexes are going down and being followed with a large amount of butlers. We're going to pay good attention to this one and see what happens. I might be looking at the replay to update my build if this goes well. Good defenses heading on around. I do like seeing some of this. We have seen some really good tower defenses in the past where people have used maze style walls with a couple of turrets to great effect in the past. In this case, it is just funneling them into one defendable spot. Not bad to see. We're 8 minutes in, so it is a good time to do it. Twig getting second fusion out at 8 minutes 30. That is a very strong build. Getting a lab up so they can go for those jags, converting over to bots, and also having the T1 labs up in order to get those ticks to assist in the push. Tank Tom, whereabouts are you? Tank Tom also going for that heavy Aphis play. These two Aphis next to each other is a big risk. Also looks like he's getting a fusion in the background, doubling up here. Probably a very minor mistake, a build order mistake, is going to be quite harsh. Is going to cost him. He does need more conversion right now because that wind is up at 20, but it's not too bad, only leaking 300 energy a second, which is essentially 5 metal, 4 metal. Not too much of a problem right there, but Tank Tom is going to have some struggles if there is an attack, but looking at what is out here, there is only going to be some grunts. There should be enough beamers to clean this one up. 30 seconds to go. Let's have a quick scout around the map. Looking for these big blobs of movement. Doesn't look like there is too much, but it also doesn't look like there is too much in the way of defenses either. So we shall see, can Twig pull off a nice early offense and take out this section? He does have the potential ability to do it, and because he's got these ticks, some scouting may give him the advantage on where to attack. And if the Kings aren't harassed too much, they're going to be off to an incredibly strong eco start with 2 players having Aphis, or at least very close to having Aphis. We've hit that 10-minute mark. Let's see where these attacks are coming out. A couple extra seconds to build up, and it does look like Twig has picked the left ramp to go down. And he's also checking with the ticks on the other ramps. Does look like we're getting some tick spam heading up that other ramp. And we do have some... Yes, we do have some arty. It is not in range of that advanced Mexus, so I'm going to call that one as right on the borderline of what is acceptable or not. Does look like Tank Tom is starting to send a couple of units out. I would not be sending that few, but it is going to give him some scouting information at least. Does look like Tank Tom is going to get away with getting that greedy Aphis. Absolutely love it. Going to set him up for a really good spot, and looking around the map, we don't have too much in the way of super eco powerhouses sitting around the map, so these guys are going to be in for a slightly better spot than if they had been, than they have been in the previous games. Some mexes around the outside still needing some T2, but here we go. Here is the first major attack of the game. And we do have the green player pushing up with a large number of maces. It doesn't look like it doesn't look like the pink player has quite enough to hold this right out of the gate, but they are going to be pushing. They are going to be slowing it down with some of these Dragon Moors, with some of these Termites, Sumos, and trying to get the units that they need to build it. They have to swap this build power onto the lab if they're going to defend this one, or Twig is going to have to help out. This is a lot of damage being done. It is 3 of their mechs is going down and a 4th one about to go down, though it does look like they may have only been T1 mexes, so not too bad at all. And there is a pop-up here which is going to do a devastating amount of damage. Big push over here. Com does go down, but it does mean a lot of Twig's offensive power has been reduced. I don't think he'll be getting down this ramp just yet, but there are plenty of beamers up here and plenty of units getting ready to make their way down. But great combined defense from all the players over here, sending units and doing their best to help. Does look like we're getting an attack up here on the orange player's side, and they do not have a lot to defend with. Only a small amount of energy production, a T2 lab with 2 build turrets. This is going to be a big struggle for Soldier Wolfie to push on down. Does look like we have a demon that has made its way up. Now that is a bold choice to get in there, but I do like it this early on. So long as it can avoid comms, it will do a phenomenal job. But it is walking right at one. It does not have that blinking light, which means it should be able to degun, but does get taken out by the dragon before it can. And this thing is going to be up here with very little challenging it, so this is going to be some great damage done. Please make sure that you control D it before it dies, so that it cannot be reclaimed and sent down. But great damage done. One player effectively cut out of the game, and now heading over to the top side to try and do the same for them. However, there's a lot of commanders coming. It does look like this is going to get degunned. Cannot see this comm, doesn't have a radar, is getting degunned, but still one player down. Unfortunately, the Rex have been left there, which means that there is a great opportunity for res, but the question is, will these fiends get on up here and prevent it? There is only T1 defending, and there are some units that are already into the build power, and that does look like they might be able to get that conversion. If the conversion pops, this entire area will pop. This is the danger of clustering your eco. You do have to make sure that you defend, that you build them properly. We do have a short on how to prevent them from chain reacting. Looking around the rest of the map, we're seeing a small attack over here, just matching unit for unit. Doesn't look like this. It does look like a no offensive. No offensive buildings. No. Please, if the mods are listening in on this one, please remove those 2 orange. That is unfortunate, because that is a what exactly if you are a player, what are you supposed to do to defend against this? That is undefendable, and it is bad sportsmanship. Please do not do that. Meanwhile, while this is going on, hopefully someone will deal with that one. While this is going on, the fiends are now trying for a different entry. This is quite a different game to what happened before, with lots of early aggression, and the kings have good control of their zone and are pushing on up. They're getting into a lot of these eco players. There isn't a lot of defense up here. They are taking out fusions, and they are crippling a lot of players. Twig dealing with a lot, trying to break down into that zone. Not quite able to, but is scaling the eco. Just building fusions, not APHIS, but still perfectly valid. Does need to get a little bit more conversion going between the team. And let's have a quick look around. We do have 3 APHIS going. We do have 3 APHIS, and we do have 2 fusions with one of those going up. So the kings have a very, very large scale eco, and they are producing a lot of T3. Looking around the map, the rest of these players, there have been some attacks down here. You can see a lot of damage was done by Tank Tom down his ramp, but enough was defended that the top zone has not been pushed in. Does look like a comm has gone down here, and the ramp is now open for Twig to attack down. Just taking the opportunity to scale while there was a bit of a stalemate, and now pushing on through. It also does look like Orange has managed to defend and get themselves up some fusions. They're going to have a much better time now that they are actively able to build units. Twig just trying to let that player know that they are not currently producing anything. Looking over to here, the T3 units are doing a absolute boatload of damage. Snipers are the right call here when there isn't spam. They are doing a absolute load of damage to these T3 units and stopping them from pushing down, at least for now. Spam coming in to try to stop this, but there are plenty of fiends and plenty of grunts. The patrol is not quite right though, so you're only catching the very edge of them. Wouldn't be too hard for a couple to slip through, but with spread out LLTs, really good idea by the way. There is the opportunity for that zone to keep standing. Snipers pushing down this ramp. Players have noticed this one. I've tried to get them removed. They really do need to stop. I am in all chat. It is completely unacceptable to be doing that. Because you can get them up so early and so easily. It is not something that can be defended. But it does require honor rules to deal with, because these structures are somewhat necessary for defensive purposes. Unfortunately, people are very willing to abuse them. Looking around the map, this is another demon has managed to make its way up. No com to defeat this one, and we have a mix of spam and demons working their way through. We do still have some very, very strong areas. If you look over here, this area is standing very strong and is scaling quite nicely. Not super fast, but scaling quite nicely as compared to this side, scaling reasonably quickly and standing very, very strong. When they do attack orange, there is going to be a big problem. Both Twig and Citrus Lemon are going to have to help cover these lanes best as they can. Otherwise, there's going to be a coring straight into there. Does look like some units did make it into the base. I'm seeing on the mini map. I'm seeing some unit there. Invisible units. We do have scuttles that have been making their way into the base, heading for potentially Twig's economy. Does look like they have been seen, but it's very hard to hit these units unless you run things directly into them. Build power is trying to reclaim them. I kind of don't want it to hit, but I also kind of do, because I want to see the Kings win, and this is going to be a pretty big hit, unfortunately. Is getting reclaimed, thank goodness. Oof. Big hit, unfortunately. And that is the power of invisible units. Very unfortunate for Twig. That's going to set him back a bit. But we do have a nice amount of stuff that is pushing up here. This demon has managed to make its way all the way across from that other side and punch on through. Unfortunately sitting in just slightly the wrong spot, and is potentially, it's going to be taken down. Could get, not quite going to get the T2 lab, and leaves a wreck which could be recovered. We are seeing it got destroyed by some recovered T2. Attack now coming to this side, but there is plenty to defend against that spam. Don't think it's going to break through anytime. Twig continuing to run up against the wall of units. EMPs launching up into his space. This is quite a hard defend for Twig. Hasn't managed to get the scaling quite what it needed to be, and he does in fact need some help. Doesn't have the build power to produce the units that he needs, and isn't quite getting the new stuff online. Needs to task some of these T1s into getting build power online, so that he can have the units he needs to defend. Tank Tom scaled into a second Aphis, got a T3 lab up, and is starting to get ready to move on down. Has been doing good damage, and the yellow player has been cleaning up some of these other players over here. Good offense into these two diagonals, and it does look like the two opposite diagonal corners having some real struggles here. But the other two fighting very, very strong, and going to be some big trouble for Twig unless players come to give him a hand. Has plenty of metal, but does not have the build power to spend it. This is one of the problems with being a king. You will end up in a bit of a panic mode every now and then, because you are just not able to, there is just so much to do, and you can't split it amongst 30 odd people the way that you can as a peasant. Does look like everyone is coming to help though, which is absolutely great, but it does mean there could be potential openings in the other lanes depending on what the other players do. This has been a real focus point for the team, and they have not been allowing Twig to get himself up and running properly. But with T3 attacks coming in here, oof, if those hit, that's going to be huge, but they miss most. Oh, that's still a nice chunk taken out. Good little force over here, very susceptible to these sharpshooters, very susceptible to comms, but I reckon these will get a decent amount of damage done, and these manual firing is going to take out so many of those snipers, provided it is done just right. Look how much damage those snipers do to the demons. That thing was nearly full just before. Surprising just how well this offense is going for the peasants. It's just a lot of spammy units backed up by a little bit of ranged firepower, and it's really been giving Twig a lot of trouble. Build power finally going down back here to get that APHIS up and running. Build power down the front to get that T3 up and running. Looks like he will be able to spend that material. Tank Tom and Citrus Lemon doing very, very good up here. This area on the ropes now, and Tank Tom doing a decent job of scaling his eco up to 3 APHIS over here. The King's doing very, very well. They are actually up in medal for the first time tonight, sitting at 2,500 to the 1,700 of the peasants. Very, very well done to them. I think one of the things that these players could do to alleviate some of the strain off of Twig is attacking down more of these ramps. Just want to comment on Soldier Wolfie doing a good job getting themselves into the game more and more. The build power is up, the APHIS is up, the fusions are up, some defenses are up. They just need to put turn repeat on to their build queue, or continue scaling, but I would prefer to see units coming out. If there is a mass attack, it may be too late to get up and running if you don't work on it early. This area holding quite nicely against the groups of spam, but the player in the middle just scaling themselves. They've got a big patch of T2 construction, but they are out of metal, so maybe a couple too many constructors. Those are 800 plus metal each. Does look like this ramp has finally been somewhat cleared, and it is now being protected by vanguards, by starlights, and lots of other units. The top side trying to get, the bottom left trying to get themselves back into the game, and the top right just losing the last of their stuff, trying to get an epic bulwark up in time. I don't think they're going to get it up with these 2 Razorbacks. There is only a fraction of defenses going on here, and even if they do, they will just be 1 player in the corner. You need Resbots. Tank Tom, get Resbots into this area, prevent them from making their way down, and prevent them from reclaiming this area. While this is going on, Tank Tom pushing around the other side, getting ready for big attacks. Here we go. This is the attack I was talking about. If you don't have the units produced, if you do too much eco, you will not have what you need to push back something like this. Razorbacks and brutes and bulls getting in the path, but the question is how much stuff will manage to push on through. The Razorbacks not quite moving deep enough. There is no defense between these grunts and anything else. We have just had an offensive missile battery. Catalysts. Do need to deal with that. I believe that is Donut. No offensive catalyst, Donut. It is not something that you can do. Looking around the map, all of this spam is starting to take its toll along with the catapults. and one of these defensive positions has fallen. It'll only be a matter of time before the second one does. And it does look like Twig has finally made it down into his opponent's base and started to push through. Big offense up the top side has managed to break this side over here, and they are starting to push their way into the eco centers. A very good effort getting up 7 APHIS between the team up here and a bunch of fusions as well. They are producing units like crazy now, Thors, Grunts, and Fiends. Question is, can they outproduce what's going on in the middle? That one unit from Twig firing in, doing the best it can, but unfortunately that shield is keeping them out. Some of the spam has changed directions and is heading on up. These are the Deadeyes, the extra unit pack version of the Sharpshooter. Fires 3 shots instead of just the 1, long cooldown, slightly less damage per shot. Looking at the scaling, the Kings are sitting at 3,220 metal compared to the 1,800 of the Peasants. Peasants doing a good job at scaling, but the Kings doing better, and the Kings are starting to break into these eco centers. That is a calm down, and that was the one thing that could have stopped these demons. These demons are going to break their way through quite nicely. There is a decent amount of bulwarks and persecutors up there, but they are going to struggle with all this spam and the backup of the catapults. This area does look like it is going to fall. Let's look for that nice juicy APHIS explosion. I do believe these units are on a fight command, which is why they have stayed as far away as they have. So this is the fall of this corner over here, and that will allow the pink player to start wrapping their way up to the top right of the map, which will hopefully then clear this entire side and allow them to focus, all the Kings to focus on the left side of the map. The one last bulwark going down, and the catapults are going to start getting good shots up here. Conversion taken out, and does manage to take out the fusion just before going down. That is this side essentially over. The top left has managed to take out the offense over here, but not without just catastrophic losses. Most of the players down, still a lot of the eco on the top left still available, but without the frontline players there to deal with it, it's going to be a very big problem for them when the next push comes, which is happening down over here. We are seeing good defenses here. The Razorbacks not going to be able to push through 2 bastions anytime soon, but all of the Jaguars are going to be able to push back down into here. If they can get that fusion, it will turn the bastions off. Come hiding, getting ready for D-guns, but the Jaguars knowing that they can roll straight over those walls if they are allowed to, but it does look like that one bastion is plenty. Nice offense happening over here, just some siege warfare with those catapults, but they are mostly firing into the ticks. There is an epic bulwark that's going to take quite the effort to punch through. I would love to see some of the heavier units coming out reasonably soon. It would be very nice to see something like the... I'm having a mental blank. I've been doing this for too long today. Something like the Behemoth. Behemoth is absolutely great for sieging those sorts of positions. Does take a while to walk on in, but can definitely deal the damage, can definitely tank the shots. Looking over this way, we do have Orange State that has managed to get the Titans and Thors and is starting to push down their final opponent. Hopefully they can wrap around with the pink player and clean up the green. Big eco out of the blue player, pushing all of this stuff back, pushing all of Pink's units back, but the question is, will this be enough when there are 2 Kings bearing down as the Titans are finishing off the dark blue player? Some consolidation happening in the middle as the metal per second rises over time, just continuing to scale that eco and get ready for those final pushes into the end of the map. We do see another chunk of the eco going down over here to a couple of these demons. These demons do need these are friendly demons. They've fallen to the area falling to other units. Thor's leading the charge along with some ticks. We did have a call to defend this side, but unfortunately there is just too much stuff for everyone to deal with. If the light blue player comes back to fight this side, then they're going to lose the other side to the pink spam, and if they don't, they're going to lose it to the Titans and the Thors. Fat Boy's coming in to try and defend, but they are not going to have too much luck against everything going on here. A little bit of lag going on now that we are quite late into this game. Lots of spam happening, lots of commands happening. And I do believe we're on a European server, and this is being cast from Australia, so just a little bit of lag and a couple of spikes here and there. We do have a resign vote coming out from the peasants. I don't think this one will pass just yet. The bottom left corner almost certainly isn't willing to resign just yet, because they have not fallen, they have not had a chance to pit themselves up against the Kings. Something which I would just like to point out, the top right corner that was nearly shut down completely has got themselves back into this and is getting ready for some offense. They do have a lot of res bots. I do want to see them resing units and instead of following that one to heal it. That's just a tiny bit of micro mistake just there. They're supposed to be resing units, but the others were sent in too soon. This is a really bad place to build your eco, Tom. This is a really bad place to build your eco. What were you thinking? What were you thinking? Oops. Oh well. That is how the game is played. You do take risks, you do try and spread out, and you do actually want to move your eco out from the very center of the map. Oh, we caught that on the corner of our screen. You do want to build your eco away from the center of the map, so that if a section does fall, not everything does fall completely. However, you probably want to secure that section before you do it. Little bit of a harsh lesson right there. It does look like we've got another attack coming in at this top section, just an absolute wave of Jags, as well as some epic pawns trying to punch their way through some demons. Doesn't look like the demons are going to let them through anytime soon. Demons so good in a defensive position like this. They would prefer to be on offense, but fighting around the corner like that, those flamethrowers are just so much damage. We do have a Pilum that is a very strong unit, but I don't think it's going to have a chance to take out those demons. Looks like the spam is finally redirecting around to this side. We've had this side has put up a very strong fight, but it does look like they're going to start to fail. This epic bulwark is absolutely destroying the Juggernaut. I feel sorry for that Juggernaut, but it isn't going to be able to stop the spam that is going in behind, and it is aimed directly for the eco center. This nice big cluster should completely immolate, and now it should be able to take on the build turrets, and when the build turrets are down, that opens up everything for the eco. Sorry about the excessive zooming, I'm getting tired and forgetting my best practices. That epic bulwark is now going to start to go down as the spam gets around it, and that is the Aphis going down. Very well played by the Kings to win this one. Offense is always the name of the game. And now we do have Tank Tom coming up to try to deal with this. They are on fight commands, unfortunately. Fight commands not the best thing for these units, and I do believe that was the surrender vote, maybe? No, or the yeah, that was the resign vote. Very well played from the peasants, but unfortunately the Kings were able to scale. One of the things that did happen was that the Kings went very greedily into those Aphis, and the peasants did not punish them, which meant that the Kings came off to a very, very strong start. Very good job from the Kings to recognize that all of the games tonight so far have not had much aggression out of the peasants, and they did try to get that extra 2 minutes worth of building time, which really did set them up. Fantastic hold from Twig as well. He had to contend with a lot of players helping defend that ramp. He never managed to make it down until he got the assistance of his team, but the fact he didn't fall did mean that he did do his job and allowed everyone else to do theirs. They also supported the player that was struggling and learning the most. Great job from everyone. Let's have a quick look at those stats and get a bit of a rundown from Twig and Tank Tom, who've just joined me in the chat. How do you guys think that one went?
I was tough defending. Like combination of the lack of sleep and low APM. Actually, what was my APM? Probably pretty average compared to usual.
Your
75.
APM,
Yeah.
your APM
Okay.
was not build turrets.
No, my APM was there apparently, 75. I usually don't hit that, but I definitely had not enough build turrets, especially when, was that a scuttle that got in the base?
A scuttle got in the base, and it took you quite a while to come back online after that.
Yeah, I didn't realize that all of the build turrets went back
Yes.
and did nothing after that. But yeah, luckily for the cream player coming across and filling the gaps, unfortunately the orange player taking a little while to come online themselves, but
Yes.
doing good in the end there, obviously learning King of the Hill. It was a good team game, that one. I was the weak link, I felt.
Tank Tom, your eco positioning towards the end of the game, how did you feel about that when everything you had built went pop?
I wasn't too concerned because it wasn't all of it. This was why I built it in chunks, and I saw them come up the ramp, and I was like, "Oh, that's gonna go. Oh well, throw the army at it."
Did you forget that you hadn't cleared up that top section, or was it just not a, or was it just a too
I
many
knew that
things
it didn't
going
have
on?
much,
Yeah.
and I'd cleared most of it, and I, rather than getting the critical mass to completely wipe that player, I was like, or I can just start rolling around, and if I wipe out 4 or 5 players and then come back to this one, that's going to be more beneficial for the Kings than throwing myself against the one well-defended one when I could just rotate around and find someone else to kill.
Good choices right there. Thanks, you guys, for playing. And since this one is a recording, Twitch, you're just going to have to listen to us sign out on this one. Thanks, everyone, for watching. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. Jump on down to the comments to comment on how everyone did in the match. And if you enjoyed the game, jump on into our Discord, link in the description. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We will catch you next time. All right, now,
before you end the stream there.
This is basically the end for us tonight. We are well and truly into the late AMs, we're into the late night AMs. We do appreciate everyone who came on and watched. Twig has a message about the tournament that is coming up a little bit after this one.
We are actually being spammed in chat. One more game, because it bridges us to the Alpha Cup. It is very late for us, guys. Like, I have been working, I think it's my 16th day straight, and I'm getting up at 5 every day. So, I mean, by all means, come next week. We're here every week. These games are on every week. We will do a later game when we hit those 1,000 subscribers. So we would love it if you guys jump on our YouTube to get us to that goal. We're not far off, and when we're there, we'll get up early, and so you guys don't have to, for those tuning in from the opposite side of the world, which is, I think, the majority of you.
Yes. Just to answer a couple of the quick questions in chat, Megazor, what is the total win rate for Kings on this map? It depends on whether you're talking about the very, very large games or whether or not we're talking about the standard ones. In the standard ones, the Kings are slightly favored. In the very large ones, the peasants are slightly favored. Once you start going over 40 peasants, you do start to get a little bit peasant favored.
Okay, I think they might be doing another one by the looks of things, but we'll say, guys, whether this here or obviously Praetor's stream's going to end, the Beyond All Reason stream will be back up and running very shortly for the Alpha Cup Day 2. You see the likes of some of the best players being cast by some of the best casters in 1v1 tournaments. We're up to the final stages, so we're seeing, I think, games of 3, best of 3s or best of 5s at this stage. Awesome event. I've learned a lot from the 1v1s in my past. When I was a lower OS, I started watching 1v1 games, learning the maps, getting build orders down and well practiced, and my OS shot really high up after watching those games. So whether you want to learn from the best or whether you just love to watch absolute domination on the battlefield, tune in for the Alpha Cup shortly on these channels. And let's just catch up on what's happening here. All right, it's without me. I don't know what they're saying there. Handing over to you guys. I need to get to bed.
Yes.
So,
we really appreciate everyone. We do all have work early in the morning tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the Alpha Cup, and we really appreciate everyone who stuck around and watched us as we force our silly game mode onto the community.
All right, and it does look like Flo is doing one more just to bridge the gap. I'm not sure if he'll take over the stream. We shall see. But yeah, once again, thank you very much. Get us to the 1,000 subs and we won't be ending these so early in the day. Next Sunday, we will be casting this and it will be going longer because it is a public holiday on Monday. So happy to stay up late and you guys can ask me one more game as many times as you like.
Thanks, everyone, and we will catch you next time.
See ya.
Beyond All Reason fans, welcome to King of the Hill by AllReasonNoLogic. Experience 2 or more teams facing off in epic scale warfare, where the Horde gang up on the Kings of the Hill. Kings start off with an economic bonus. They do their best to defend an onslaught after a no-rush timer expires.